Chapter 26:16. Lowly slave, you dare to steal my supreme treasure? You're courting death. Miss Pang was both shocked and furious. A fiery red divine light shot out from between her eyebrows. It swept across the sky and chased after Su Fong. In an instant, it turned into a burning flame Dharmakaya. At this moment, there was an earth-shattering commotion in the cave. Lava splashed everywhere, and rocks collapsed with a loud rumble. "Miss, it's dangerous here. Let's go." The Pang clan's goateed avatar used a barrier to stabilize the cave. Then he used his power to wrap up Miss Pang's physical avatar and the Pang clan's experts and mercenaries. They rushed out of the barrier and quickly left before the cave completely collapsed. After an incense stick's worth of time, the Pang clan's elder brought everyone out of the depths of the lava and arrived above the flowing flame waterfall. After another 2 hours, a fiery light soared into the sky from the area hit by the lava waterfall. It then flew to the side of Miss Pang. It was her fire element Dharmakaya. She sucked the fire avatar into the Shintian Dao Palace and gnashed her teeth. "Damn it, I actually let that slave escape." The old man with the goatee raised his white eyebrows and said in surprise, "That person is just a fake god from a low-level universe. Young Mrs. Fire Elemental Dharmakaya is unimpeded in the lava. How could he escape your pursuit?" Miss Pang raised her eyebrows. "I don't know what kind of ability that person has. Not only was he able to break the Yuan spirit restriction I used to control the flame beast, but he also cut off all traces of his aura. There are cracks and caves everywhere in the lava, so it's impossible to capture his aura. Break the Yuan spirit restriction and cut off his aura." The Pang clan's elder's eyes flashed with disbelief. Miss Pang hatefully said, "Damn it, not only the flame beast, but even the flame dream illusory cloud fell into the hands of that lowly slave. How hateful." The mercenary leader was afraid of the Pang clan's anger. After all, Su Fong was a slave he had captured, and Su Fong had killed 2 of his subordinates. One of his subordinates had his avatar destroyed. He naturally wouldn't let Su Fong off. Hurriedly, he said to young Miss Pang, "Young Miss, don't worry. This lowly one will guard Flowing Flame Waterfall. That slave will come out sooner or later. It's just a mere false god. When the time comes, this lowly one will be able to easily suppress him and hand him over to young Miss Pang. Since you dare to steal my treasure, I'll deal with you personally. I'll wait here at the Flowing Flame Waterfall." Miss Pang said resolutely. Flames were burning in her eyes. She looked like she wouldn't give up until she caught Su Fong. As soon as Su Fong entered the lava with the flame beast, he immediately used the sun refining transformation technique to control the surrounding fire energy and quickly swam towards the depths of the lava. He found a crack in the rock at the bottom of the lava and immediately entered the crack as the lava flowed. At the same time, he used the Heavenly Secret Life shrinking technique to conceal his destiny aura. In one breath, he drilled into the depths of the rock crevice and came to a small karst cave. Su Fong once again used the Yang refining profound art to refine the rocks on both sides of the cave crevice and completely seal the crevice before stopping. Phew, Su Fong let out a long sigh of relief. This time, it could be said that he was pulling chestnuts out of the fire. He risked his life and finally got the Flame Dream illusory cloud. Su Fong transmitted his thoughts to the Flame Beast. "Flame Beast, take out the Flame Dream illusory cloud." The Flame Beast hesitated for a moment before finally opening its mouth and spitting out the Flame Dream illusory cloud. Su Fong waved his hand and wrapped it around the Flame Dream illusory cloud. After sensing it, he found that although the Flame Dream illusory cloud had lost its petals, it still contained an incomparably majestic fire essence and world origin force. The loss wasn't great. Su Fong's eyes flashed with a hale and hearty light. With the Flame Dream illusory cloud, it meant that there was hope for him to cultivate the 81st Yang Meridian and step into the 9th transformation. From a low-level universe's transcendence being to a true god, how could Su Fong not be excited? He stabilized his somewhat excited heart and let his heart calm down until it returned to the state of an ancient well without ripples. "Flame Beast, You've done a great service for me this time. I won't treat you unfairly. Su Fong rolled out a petal from his palm. It was the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud's petal he obtained from killing the 3 mercenaries. Then he nodded and said, "Swallow the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud's petal first. When it's calm outside, I'll restore your freedom." The flame beast's eyes flashed with excitement. It opened its mouth and swallowed the petal. It ran to a corner of the cave and slowly merged the fire essence and world origin force in the petal. It wasn't that the flame beast didn't want to swallow the entire Flame Dream Illusory Cloud, but it was afraid of Su Fong's yang transformation technique and had to hand it over. It didn't expect Su Fong to reward it with a petal and promise it freedom. This made it very happy. Next, Su Fong began to swallow pills and made the ancestral Gragon bleed a lot to recover the life he used to use the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. Su Fong had used 30 years to adjust his life force and energy to their peak. This was related to the 9th transformation. If he failed this time, who knew when he would be able to find such a good fortune again? How could he not be careful? The method to merge with the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud was very simple. Su Fong directly absorbed the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud into his body and came to the 80 Yang Meridians. He saw that it wouldn't take long for him to succeed. What he lacked was an opportunity. As long as he succeeded this time, Su Fong would be able to step into the 9th transformation of the 9 Yang 9 transformation and reach the number of Yang Meridians. This time, I'll definitely be able to form the 81st Yang Meridian and open the Jiuquan Dao Palace. Su Fong was filled with anticipation as he urged the power of the 9 suns to burn the Flame Dream Illusory Cloud. The Flame Dream Illusory Cloud was a supreme fire-type spirit creature. It had intelligence not inferior to humans. However, when the fire-winged salamander self-detonated, its self-consciousness was destroyed. Su Fong used the power of the 9 suns to refine it, but it didn't resist. The Flame Dream Illusory Cloud turned into a burning white flame. It fused with Su Fong's power of the 9 suns and entered the 80 Yang Meridians. Suddenly, a strange movement erupted under Su Fong's anticipation. The movement naturally came from the meridian where the 81st Yang Meridian was located. At this moment, this meridian was filled with Yang Qi. A terrifying power was brewing and stirring. Once it erupted, it would be extremely shocking. Without a doubt, the 81st Yang Meridian was about to be born. It was much easier than Su Fong had imagined. QL 11-inch the 9th transformation. I'm finally going to step into the 9th transformation. From the 1st Yang Meridian to the 81st Yang Meridian, Su Fong had gone through a lot of hardships and dangers. Now that his wish had finally been fulfilled and his Yang Meridian was about to reach perfection, how could he not be excited? The 9 Yang 9 transformation had a total of 9 realms and 9 variations. Now that he was about to step into the 9th transformation, what kind of shocking changes would it bring to Su Fong? As a result, Su Fong calmed his heart and focused all his energy on attacking the 81st Meridian. The power of all the Yang Meridian, as well as the power of his entire body, swept through the great cycle and began to fiercely attack the 81st Yang Meridian. At this moment, Shi Xian Daozu suddenly said, "Su Fong, let the woman who cultivates the 9 Yin 9 transformations cultivate Yin Yang dual cultivation with you. Once you successfully form the 81st Yang Meridian, you need to use Yin Yang dual cultivation and the Origin Sacred Mirror to open the Jiuquan Dao Palace in one fell swoop. This way, not only you, but the woman will also obtain supreme fortune and open the Jiuquan Dao Palace." How could Su Fong dare to disobey Shi Xian Daozu's words? Moreover, it could also bring supreme fortune to Shu Wanjin. Su Fong naturally did not hesitate and immediately released Shu Wanjin from his inner world. In Heavenly Lord Pan Song's Yang Soul Space, Shu Wanjin had obtained Nether's power and formed 4 E-meridians. However, they were all virtual meridians. Later on, Heavenly Lord Pan Song controlled the Origin E-mirror and tried to fuse with Shu Wanjin and possess her. In the end, Su Fong severed his control of the origin Yin mirror with the life-severing blade. This allowed Shu Wanjin to not only escape, but also completely fuse with the origin Yin mirror. After so many years, Shu Wanjin had completely fused with the origin Yin mirror. Her 4 virtual meridians had completely stabilized and turned into real Yin meridians, allowing her to reach the 9th transformation long ago. However, after she stepped into the 9th transformation of the 9 Yin 9 transformations, other than the 9 rings of Yin Qi formed by the 81 Yin meridians, she did not undergo any other transformation. The reason for this was probably because Su Fong had not reached the 9th transformation. At this moment, Su Fong was about to step into the 9th transformation. Not only Su Fong, but Shu Wanjin would definitely obtain supreme fortune along with him. Shu Wanjin had not yet reached a height that transcended the Pan-Song universe. When she came out of Su Fong's inner world, she was immediately shackled. However, as the two entered the state of yin-yang dual cultivation, the power of 9 yin and the power of 9 yang circulated endlessly. Yin and yang merged, releasing a divine might that immediately broke free from the shackles of outer space. After obtaining Shu Wanjin's power of 9 yin, Su Fong's power of yang became even more profound and vast. The impact also became even more shocking, accelerating the birth of the 81st Yang Meridian. ZZ. Su Fong's inner world shook violently. After countless crazy impacts, the 81st Yang Meridian was finally successfully formed. After the meridian expanded, it burst into flames of the 9 Yang. When it calmed down, this meridian was no longer an ordinary meridian. Instead, it was a jade-like Yang meridian that was filled with abundant Yang energy. The 81st Yang meridian is finally born. I'm about to step into the 9th transformation. Su Fong was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, he was extremely nervous. He focused all his attention on the movements of the 81 Yang meridian. The newly born Yang meridian approached the 80th meridian and gradually moved. It connected with the other 8 9th transformation Yang meridian, forming an irregular circle. Then it connected head to tail, and all the Yang energy fused into one. The transformation would not end like this. From the first transformation to the 9th transformation, the Yang meridian began to stretch and move. Finally, it formed a total of 9 spiraling Yang meridian vortexes. Together with the world tree, it formed a complete Tao palace of heaven and earth. The true transformation had finally begun. The Yang energy within the 81 Yang meridian, the power of the world of yin and yang, and the power of the outer space fragments surged into the Yang meridian. First, it circulated in the inner world, then in the major world. Then, it formed the yin-yang dual cultivation with Shu Wanjin. Finally, it returned to the Yang meridian. The 81 Yang meridian suddenly erupted with resplendent light. It was as if 81 galaxies had gathered to form a vast starry sky. Chapter 26:17. The 9 Yang 9 transformations erupted with a wondrous power that caused Su Fong's divine body, divine aperture, and Tao palace of heaven and earth to completely collapse into nothingness, leaving only the Yang meridian. Not only Su Fong, but Shu Wanjin was also in a state of yin and yang dual cultivation. The 9 yin 9 transformations also released a wondrous power that caused everything to turn into nothingness, leaving only the yin meridian. At this moment, their consciousness was extremely clear. Everything else was out of their control. They could only allow this to happen. Bang! The two merged together. The positions of the Yang meridian and yin meridian shifted like 2 long rivers of stars that merged together to form a yin and yang vortex like 2 fish swimming. At the intersection of the yin meridian and yang meridian, there were 2 round dots, one red and one black, like the eyes of a fish. They were the yuan-yang mirror and the yuan-yin mirror. Yin and yang merged. You have me, I have you. The intersection of yin and yang created a cycle of reincarnation. This feeling was truly wondrous. Su Fong found it inconceivable. The flame beast in the corner of the cave was dumbfounded when it saw this scene. Shi Xian Daozu's figure had appeared at some point, floating not far away. However, Su Feng, Shu Wanjin, and the flame beast could not see him. Shi Xian Daozu stared unblinkingly at the yin and yang diagram, his eyes shining brightly. The yin and yang vortex spun continuously, evolving the mysteries of the great Tao. In Su Feng and Shu Wanjin's consciousness, more and more mysterious information appeared. This information gathered together to form a new technique. Su Feng and Shu Wanjin had already obtained some words about the 9 Yang 9 transformations and the 9 Yin 9 transformations in the Origin Sacred Mirror. They also knew that the two of them cultivated a dual cultivation technique. Both the 9 Yang 9 transformations and the 9 Yin 9 transformations were only a part of the technique. When the Yang and Yin meridian reached perfection, the two of them would merge the Yang and Yin meridians and then merge the two divine mirrors to create a new technique. It was only now that they finally obtained this cultivation method. However, this cultivation technique was not obtained from the primordial origin sacred mirror, nor was it left behind by an expert. Instead, it was the information of the heavenly Tao that was produced by the evolution of the heavenly Tao. The 9 suns represented the extreme of Yang. The 9 Yin represented the extreme of Yin. Instead, it was the fusion of the 9 Yang transformations and the 9 Yin transformations. It was the fusion of the extremes of Yang and Yin. Then, it evolved further and naturally turned into a kind of wonderful information. The two of them deciphered the information and found the name of this cultivation technique. Jiuxuan's Limitless Sutra. Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra. Shi Xian Daozu's shadow caught this information and sank into deep thought. In a flash, countless thoughts flashed through Shi Xian Daozu's mind. Then his eyes shone like stars. Shi Xian Daozu murmured to himself, "I understand. This ancestor finally understands. So this is the true Jiuxuan's Limitless Sutra. This is the true path of seeking the truth. This ancestor understands that Pansong really is a genius and found the key to the path of seeking the truth. But it is a pity that his vision is too narrow and his fate is not good." Su Feng and Shu Wanjin deciphered the information of the Jiuxuan's Limitless Sutra and naturally had many more comprehensions. The picture formed by the fusion of a Yang and Yin meridians gradually changed as the two deciphered and comprehended the sutra. Red and black gradually mixed and became mixed. The Yang and Yin meridians turned into nothingness. The primordial Yang and primordial Yin mirrors also disappeared. QL11 in the end, the Yin and Yang picture turned into chaos like a ball of paste. It did not have the previous light, but it gave people a feeling of brilliance and brilliance. It looked like there was nothing, but it contained endless mysteries and gave off an ancient and eternal presence. Chaos. When the 9 Yang 9 transformations and 9 Yin 9 transformations were cultivated to the extreme, the Yang and Yin meridians merged. The primordial Yang and primordial Yin mirrors of the primordial chaos sacred mirror became one and finally turned into chaos. Just like the chaotic void, it contained the beginning of everything and also the end of everything. This meant that Su Feng and Shu Wanjin had completely ended everything in the low-level universe and stepped into a higher level of cultivation. Bang! The existence of the chaotic paste split into two and shrank, turning into 2 balls of chaotic paste. Then, from each ball of chaotic paste, shocking bloodlight surged out. As it rolled and surged, it condensed into the image of Su Feng and Shu Wanjin. Then, it quickly became real and condensed into the meridians, bones, flesh, and skin. Finally, it turned into the physical state of Su Feng and Shu Wanjin. "It's over?" Su Feng was shocked and shocked. He quickly sensed his physical body and turned into a wooden sculpture. Shu Wanjin was the same. She stood there dumbfounded. Su Feng sensed that his physical body was filled with boundless vitality. Every bone, every meridian, every drop of blood, and every cell had become perfect. Their structure was harmonious, and they were filled with power and vitality. The reconstructed physical body was more than 100 times stronger and more perfect than before. The sensing power of his physical body was also 100 times stronger than before. If he was in the mystic world, his sensing power could cover thousands of miles. Moreover, the shackles of the mystic world on the physical body had weakened a lot. Su Fong estimated that he could cross the chaotic void with just his physical body. However, what shocked him was that in his physical body, besides the boundless vitality, there was no trace of the power of the yin-yang world or any other energy. Even the heaven and earth Tao palace had disappeared. At this time, his divine body was no different from a mortal except for the vitality and physical strength. At this time, Yu Yu's voice sounded in his mind. Idiot, as long as you go through the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, you will become a true Tao realm deity. Your heaven and earth Tao palace and divine aperture have merged, and the Dantian palace between your eyebrows has become the Xintian Tao palace. Su Fong hurriedly released his consciousness. He hurriedly looked at the space between his eyebrows with surprise and urgency. This is my Xintian Tao palace. The scene he saw once again made Su Fong feel incomparably shocked. He saw a spiritual world that was as vast and deep as the primal chaos. In the central area, there were 9 vortexes like 9 different spaces. In the deepest space of the vortexes, some were empty, while others had a phantom sitting cross-legged. Some of these phantoms were blurry, but 3 of them were extremely real. They were the lifelike Su Fong. In one of the vortexes, there was a Su Fong sitting cross-legged. He couldn't sense any vitality from him, but his entire body contained a universe of its own. Behind this Su Fong, there was a huge green cauldron that was about 30 meters wide. It had merged with Su Fong's aura, but it hadn't completely merged. It was the world fragment. Su Fong suddenly opened his eyes. Su Fong's consciousness instantly merged with that Su Fong. This feeling was really strange. It was as if Su Fong was looking at a part of his body. In an instant, Su Fong's consciousness came to a space where a large tree supported the world. It was the world tree. Around the world tree were 9 galaxies. Each galaxy was formed by the intertwining of 2 galaxies, one bright and one dark. The galaxies and the world tree formed a heaven and earth Tao palace. Su Fong's consciousness moved. The galaxies and the world tree disappeared in the Tao palace and turned into a vast universe. It was the world in Su Fong's body that he couldn't be more familiar with. Su Fong's consciousness covered the entire universe. His father, Su Yaotian, Xuanxin, and the others were living well in the Jimu space. The countless cultivators and Big Goblin living in the world and his body also didn't change. They didn't even know that the universe they lived in had undergone earth-shaking changes. Continuing to sense, Su Fong found that the universe in his body had undergone a huge change. It was almost exactly the same as the Pansong universe. However, the various great Taos that maintained the operation of the heavenly Tao were relatively vague and needed to be developed and perfected. Su Fong finally understood. Heavenly Tao Dharma Body. This is my heavenly Tao Dharma Body. After advancing to the Tao True Realm, the heaven and earth Tao palace separated from the physical body and condensed into an independent Dharma body, which was another Su Fong. This Dharma body was a universe of its own. It didn't rely on a physical body and could exist independently. With shock, Su Fong continued to check the other whirlpool spaces. In another whirlpool space, Su Fong saw another Dharma body. Different from the heavenly Tao Dharma body, this Dharma body was a primordial spirit formed by the second primordial spirit. There was another Dharma body that emitted a golden divine light. Its skin was densely covered with mysterious runes and exuded a Xianyang qi that surpassed the 9 suns. Its body wasn't made of flesh and blood, but was condensed from the essence of Xianyang. Xianyang Dharma body. There were 6 other whirlpools. Some were empty, and some were in a phantom state. They exuded different qi. Su Fong was about to explore deeper when he suddenly became alert and focused his attention on the outside world. Around him, a cloud of chaos suddenly surged out. It was filled with shocking tribulation power. Terrifying thunder rumbled from the cloud. Shu Wanjin was the same. Tribulation clouds also surged out around her. Tribulation thunder was constantly brewing. The flame beast sensed the terrifying tribulation thunder and curled into a ball. It trembled all over as if the end of the world was coming. Not only in the depths of the magma cave, but above the flowing flame waterfall, the chaotic void seemed to be stirred by two invisible hands. Two whirlpools appeared. One was 100 miles wide, and the other was less than 100 miles wide. In the whirlpools, terrifying tribulation clouds rolled. Before the tribulation power was released, the magma in the flowing flame waterfall began to boil violently. The magma waterfall also became turbulent. Jiuquan God Realm cultivators also had to undergo tribulation to ascend. However, it was different from the heavenly tribulation of low-level universes. The heavenly tribulation of low-level universes was a punishment from the heavenly Tao to prevent cultivators from going against the heavens. Jiuquan God Realm's chaotic heavenly tribulation was because cultivators touched the true essence of the heavenly Tao during cultivation. It caused the great Tao contained in the chaos to resonate with the cultivator. Only then did the heavenly tribulation descend. Withstanding the baptism of the heavenly tribulation meant that the cultivator received the recognition of the great Tao to a certain extent, and thus obtained the corresponding ability. Strange, someone is undergoing tribulation in the flowing flame waterfall. Chapter 26:18. There are many cultivators who come to the flowing flame waterfall to search for treasures. It is not strange for someone to ascend after obtaining a treasure and attract a heavenly tribulation. Not strange. Two people are going through a tribulation at the same time, and the heavenly tribulation is obviously the initial tribulation for ascension to the Tao True Realm. How is it not strange? That's right. When I ascended to the Tao True Realm, the tribulation cloud was only 2 or 3 miles in area. The tribulation cloud that is brewing the heavenly tribulation is so shocking. I have never even heard of it, much less seen it. The mercenaries discussed animatedly. The experts of the Pang clan were also shocked. Miss Pang stared at the tribulation cloud in the sky with disbelief in her beautiful eyes. The heavenly tribulation that a cultivator attracted when ascending to the Tao True Realm was called the initial tribulation. The heavenly tribulation meant the acknowledgement of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, the scale of a cultivator's initial tribulation could determine their future achievements. The tribulation cloud that a cultivator attracted by the initial tribulation was only 12 miles in area. The smaller ones were not even 1 mile in area. When Miss Pang ascended to the Tao True Realm, she attracted a tribulation cloud that was 15 miles in area. She was hailed as a genius of the Pang clan, which was why she was valued by the Pang clan's ancestor and was carefully nurtured. Now, 2 tribulation clouds had appeared. One was almost 100 miles in area, and the other was more than 100 miles in area. How shocking was this? When a Tao master ascended to a higher realm, he would only attract tribulation clouds of such a scale. Granduncle Pang Zhong, is there a peerless Tao master ascending to a higher realm? Miss Pang Zhong was full of doubts and asked the goateed elder. The goateed elder's eyes were also filled with seriousness and confusion. He shook his head and said, "It is the initial tribulation of the Tao True Realm. However, even I have never heard of a heavenly tribulation of such a scale. I can't see through it. I really can't see through it." Su Fong was in the cave deep in the lava. Naturally, he did not know that the heavenly tribulation that he and Shu Wanjin attracted would shock the experts and mercenaries of the Pang clan. He and Shu Wanjin were caught off guard by the sudden initial tribulation, but they had to use all their strength to face it. Suddenly, Shi Xiandaozu, who was floating there, suddenly said, "It is not time for the tribulation yet. Forget it for now." Then, he rolled up his sleeves. The tribulation clouds around Su Fong and Shu Wanjin, as well as the tribulation lightning brewing in the tribulation clouds, were swept away by a gust of wind with a casual wave of Shi Xiandaozu's sleeve. After tumbling for a while, they were all swept into the void and disappeared without a trace. Su Fong and Shu Wan were dumbfounded. While the flame beast could not see the existence of Shi Xian Daozu, seeing this astounding scene, it trembled, its eyes filled with awe and terror. As the tribulation clouds around Su Fong and Shu Wanjin were swept away by the Shi Xian Daozu, the roiling tribulation clouds above the flowing flame waterfall also dissipated. After a dozen or so breaths, the sky calmed down and everything returned to normal. It was as if nothing had happened. Could it be that he failed his tribulation? We haven't even started yet. So how can we fail? On the rocky outskirts of the flowing flame waterfall, the experts and mercenaries of the Pang clan, as well as some adventurers who had entered the flowing flame waterfall to seek treasures, were all dumbfounded. QL11, the old man with the goatee whose strength had reached the level of a Tao master, felt a huge wave surging in his heart. This isn't some failure in transcending the tribulation. Instead, someone used a supreme Tao technique to stop the heavenly tribulation. Just how powerful is that person to be able to stop the heavenly tribulation? Even the ancestor of my clan, or even the master of the Fire Luo mystical world, could not do this. There is such a terrifying existence in the flowing flame waterfall. Who is this person? In the cave, the Shi Xian Daozu's figure flashed into Su Fong's forehead and appeared in Su Fong's Tao Palace. After examining, the Shi Xian Daozu nodded and said, "Extraordinary. You have cultivated the 9 transformations to the extreme. 9 yin and 9 yang merged to create the Jiuxuan Tao Palace. Truly extraordinary." Su Fong asked, "Master, the Tao Palace I cultivated is the Jiuxuan Tao Palace? What is the difference between this Jiuxuan Tao Palace and the Xiantian Tao Palaces of other cultivators?" Aside from the physical body, ordinary cultivators can cultivate one avatar in the Xiantian Tao Palace. 2 avatars are considered geniuses, and those who have 3 avatars are giants of the mystic world. Once you reach a certain level, you can gradually cultivate more avatars. However, the difficulty will multiply and the avatar's abilities will be limited. Once your Jiuxuan Tao Palace is born, you can quickly condense 9 avatars. What do you think is different? Su Fong was surprised and delighted. The Tao Palace is the foundation, and the avatars are the cultivator's strength. Each avatar can bring different and astonishing abilities to the cultivator. Your Jiuxuan Tao Palace means that you have 9 different abilities. How extraordinary is that? Moreover, the avatars you've already cultivated are all extraordinary. Not to mention the heavenly Tao avatar. The Xianyang avatar evolved from the 9 suns and merged with the Yuanyang mirror. It's one of the top avatars and is only inferior to the 1 in 10,000 Xian bodies. There's also the primordial spirit avatar, which is even rarer in the Jiuxuan realm of the gods. Shi Xian Daozu continued to speak tirelessly and seemed to be quite happy. Xian body? It was the first time Su Fong had heard of this term. The physiques of cultivators in the Jiuxuan realm of the gods are mostly called divine bodies. The Xian body surpasses the divine body and contains unimaginable and mysterious abilities. Once awakened and cultivated an avatar, the cultivator will be able to possess extraordinary abilities that other cultivators can't. Cultivators with Xian bodies and Dharma bodies will definitely become peerless giants in the future. For any other race, human cultivators with Xian bodies are their nightmare. The siblings Dongxian Zheng and Dongxian Rong have the supreme Xian bodies. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been taken in as disciples by Dongxian Daozu before reaching the realm of Daojin. If not for this, I wouldn't have stopped you when you wanted to kill Dongxian Zheng. Who would have thought that Dongxian Zheng and Dongxian Rong were both Xian body possessors? This made Su Fong extremely shocked. It seemed that saving his grandfather's soul and taking revenge on the siblings would not be an easy task. Shi Xian Daozu snorted. So what if they have Xian bodies? You have the Jiuxuan Daoist Palace, and the 3 avatars that are about to be cultivated are not inferior to Xian bodies. After continuous cultivation, your avatars might even surpass Xian bodies. Besides, you still have 6 avatars that have yet to be cultivated. How can your future achievements be weaker than those 2 Dongxian Juniors? Heavenly Tao Avatar, Xinyang Body, Primordial Spirit Avatar. Extraordinary. Even Shi Xian Daozu was full of praises for it. Of course, it was extraordinary. Su Fong could not stop grinning from ear to ear. Su Fong saw that Shi Xian Daozu was in high spirits and quickly seized the opportunity to ask, "May I ask, Master, are my 3 avatars still in their embryonic form?" Daojin cultivators can only cultivate avatars when they reach the pinnacle. Once your Jiuquan Daoist palace is completed, 3 avatars were born. That is because your cultivation foundation is solid enough. However, to become true avatars, you need to cultivate continuously in some special spiritual items. Among them, God's Source is essential. God's Source? What the hell was that? You have just established the Jiuquan Daoist palace and are unprepared. That is why I stopped the God's tribulation for you. As for how to cultivate avatars, this is all common knowledge. Since you asked, I will give you some pointers. Shi Xian Daozu took out a rune talisman and floated it in Su Fong's Jiuquan Daoist palace. This rune talisman contains some methods to cultivate avatars. Although it is not a powerful spell, it is of a higher level than the methods other cultivators use to cultivate avatars. Take it and study it yourself. How could something from Shi Xian Daozu be ordinary? Su Fong was overjoyed. With a thought, he kept the rune talisman in his Heavenly Tao avatar. Su Fong was not in a hurry to study the information in the rune talisman. He asked, "Master, when I merged with senior sisters Yang and Yi Meridians, I received some information. It was the Jiuquan's Wuji scripture. This was what he was most worried about. If he cultivated the Jiuquan's Wuji scripture like celestial venerable Pan Song and created an evil god, then he would be finished. But before he could finish, Shi Xian Daozu waved his hand and said, "No matter. This Jiuquan's Wuji scripture is not the Jiuquan's Wuji scripture. I have just deduced. The scripture you received is the legendary secrets bestowed by heaven. There are no problems with it. You can cultivate it." "Why?" Shi Xian Daozu explained. According to Shi Xian Daozu's deductions, the true Jiuquan's Wuji scripture was a scripture to decipher the heavenly Tao. When one cultivated it to a certain level, the scripture would appear naturally. This was the legendary secrets bestowed by heaven, and not something a powerful person could teach. The Jiuquan's Wuji scripture that celestial venerable Pan Song cultivated originated from the first celestial venerable Pan Song. Something had gone wrong, or perhaps it had been tampered with. Naturally, there would be problems after cultivating it. Celestial venerable Pan Song could be said to be a prodigy. He had clearly discovered the true meaning of the Jiuquan's Wuji scripture. He had divided the problematic Jiuquan's Wuji scripture into the 9 Yang transformation and the 9 Yin transformation. This was equivalent to cultivating the heavenly Tao from the beginning. He had completely gotten rid of the drawbacks of the Jiuquan's Wuji scripture. Su Fong and Shu Wanjin started from the first transformation and cultivated it all the way to the 9th transformation. This was the process of the heavenly Tao changing from no to extreme. It contained the meaning of the heavenly Tao. It was no longer the Jiuquan's Wuji scripture that celestial venerable Pan Song cultivated. Now that the 9 Yin and 9 Yang had merged, the information obtained was the result of the heavenly Tao's transformation. It was equivalent to coming from the heavenly Tao. It was the true Tao of seeking the truth. Su Fong naturally had no problems cultivating it. Su Fong said, "Master, please teach this disciple how to cultivate the Jiuquan's Wuji scripture." Shi Xian Daozu said solemnly, "The Jiuquan's Wuji scripture is a supreme Tao that comes from the heavenly Tao. Even if I cultivate it, due to each person's fate and understanding of the Tao, the results are completely different. It is like the same Tao. To me, it is a shortcut, but to you, it is a path of death. The true Tao of seeking the truth can be spoken, but what is spoken is not the eternal Tao. You can only continue to comprehend and cultivate it yourself, and find the Tao of seeking the truth that belongs to you from the heavenly Tao. No one has walked the path that you are walking. Naturally, there will be no one to tell you how to walk it. The future will definitely be filled with thorns and filled with dangers. You can only believe in yourself. With a fearless heart, you can continue to walk forward. There is no other way. Chapter 26:19. Su Fong then asked, "Is the Taoist palace that senior sister cultivates a Jiushuan Taoist palace as well?" "Yes, but she's different from you. You cultivate the world fragment, so you have the Heavens Tao avatar, but she doesn't. Besides, because the foundation of the Tao that both of you cultivated is different, your future path will be different as well. However, there's one thing that I'm sure of. Although her future achievement will not be as great as yours, it will still be extraordinary, surpassing countless cultivators." Hearing Shi Xian Daozu's words, Su Fong's heart was set. Shi Xian Daozu continued, "After the fusion of Jiuyang and Jiuyin, the two of you have transformed. Both of you don't need to cultivate together like before, and each of you has your own path of seeking the truth." Su Fong was silent. This was like two people working together to knock on the door of cultivation. Now that they had entered the door, they were about to part ways. Shu Wanjin has cultivated a Jiushuan Taoist palace. She's suitable for an old friend of mine. I want to send her to cultivate under that old friend. Ask her later if she's willing. Shi Xian Daozu's following words surprised and delighted Su Fong. Shi Xian Daozu's friend must be a peerless existence on the same level as him. How fortunate would it be for Shu Wanjin to be his disciple? If it weren't for Shu Wanjin, Su Fong would never have achieved what he had today. He might have died in the microcosm of the Pongsong universe. Besides, both of them cultivated yin and yang together, especially in the previous state of dual cultivation. Not only did their yang and yin meridians blend, but their souls were also blended as well. The relationship between both of them was like their lives were connected. Now that Shu Wanjin finally had a good home and her future was limitless, how could Su Fong not be happy for her? "Before coming to Dongxian, I've promised that as long as you meet my requirements, you'll receive the corresponding resources. Now that you've ascended to the Taoist realm and cultivated a Jiushuan Taoist palace, it's time for me to fulfill my promise." As Shi Xian Daozu nodded, a formation swiftly formed in Su Fong's Jiushuan Taoist palace. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Rays of divine light burst forth from the formation, and a storage ring was sent directly to the Jiushuan Taoist palace in Su Fong from an unknown place. Su Fong was very happy. "Thank you, Shizuan, for your reward." Shi Xian Daozu's figure disappeared from the Jiushuan Taoist palace in Su Fong. Shu Wanjin was also immersed in the joy of her advancement. Su Fong slowly told her what he had just learned from Shi Xian Daozu. Knowing that she had cultivated the Jiushuan Tao Palace and had a limitless future, Shu Wan was overjoyed. Next, Su Fong spoke of how Shi Xian Daozu was going to recommend Shu Wanjin to study under an expert. Shu Wanjin sank into silence and then said coolly, "I know." Then Shu Wanjin had Su Fong suck her into the heavenly Tao avatar and into the Jimu space. Su Fong did not understand but felt it was awesome. At this time, Yu's voice came from inside the heavenly Tao avatar. "Idiot, you and my disciple dual cultivate yin and yang. It is more intimate than physical union. She naturally has feelings for you. How can she be happy when she is about to leave your side?" Senior apprentice Sister Shu Wanjin had feelings for him? Su Fong was shocked. He had always thought of Shu Wanjin as an elder sister. How could he have feelings for her? You said coldly, "In any case, do as you see fit. My disciple cannot suffer any grievances. If you betray her in the future, I will not forgive you." "You, how can you be so unreasonable?" Su Fong's head started to hurt. Next, Su Fong started to study the script seal that Shi Xian Daozu had given him to understand the method of cultivating the avatar. After deciphering it, Su Fong was shocked. It turned out that cultivating the avatar was not as simple as he had imagined. Before a cultivator ascended to the Tao True realm, they would make preparations to open the Xiantian Tao Palace and cultivate the avatar. The foundation of the avatar came from the cultivation method and physique they had cultivated in the past. It could also be based on magic treasures and spiritual items. Cultivating the avatar not only required accumulation and consolidation, but also required some necessary resources. Among them, the divine source that Xian Daozu had mentioned was essential. The so-called divine source was the essence of the chaotic spiritual power that had accumulated over countless years in the chaos. Some of the high-grade spiritual items contained some divine source. For example, the flaming dream illusory cloud that Su Fong had merged with previously contained the fire essence and world origin force. It was a kind of low-grade divine source. Su Fong's cauldron-like world fragment was also a kind of divine source. It was also because of these two types of divine source that Su Fong was able to cultivate the Xianyang avatar and Heavenly Way avatar when the Jiuquan Dao Palace was opened. Although they were only embryonic forms, they were true avatars after all. As for the primordial spirit avatar, it was extremely rare in the Jiuquan God realm. Being able to cultivate it was purely a matter of luck. However, whether it was the flaming dream illusory cloud or the world fragment, the divine source that it contained was not the best. In order to improve the Xianyang avatar and Heavenly Way avatar, in addition to the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, one had to constantly cultivate and use spiritual items and treasures that contained divine sources to improve. If Su Fong wanted to cultivate the other 6 avatars, he also had to find high-grade divine sources. Magic treasures, cultivation methods, and spiritual items can all be used to cultivate the avatar. I have to make a good plan for the remaining 6 avatars. Su Fong thought for a while and had a rough plan in his heart. The purple Qi Dharma spirit could bring about supreme fate and the ability to control divine weapons. It was completely possible to cultivate a purple fate avatar with the purple Qi Dharma spirit as the foundation. There was also the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda, which was Su Fong's natal magic treasure. It allowed Su Fong to have natal abilities and could also cultivate a Dharma avatar. In addition, there was also the life shrinking technique and the heavens divination mystery solution. Su Fong was also thinking about whether he could cultivate a destiny avatar. Once he did, this Dharma avatar would have the ability to control fate and fate. How shocking would that be? As for the other avatars, Su Fong had no idea at the moment. The cultivation of the Dharma avatar cannot be rushed. After leaving the flowing flame waterfall, I will find a suitable place and plan carefully. Putting aside the matter of cultivating the Dharma avatar, Su Fong began to check the rewards of the Xian Daozu. When his consciousness entered the storage ring, he found that this storage ring had several layers of space. However, Su Fong's consciousness could only enter the first layer of space. The other layers of space were sealed. With Su Fong's current strength, he could not move them at all. In the first layer of space, Su Fong found thousands of different types of elixirs. Although Su Fong did not know how high the quality of these elixirs were, he sensed that the aura of these elixirs was more than 100 times more shocking than the low-grade elixirs and Thunderfire elixirs that Su Fong had seen before. Su Fong's Heavenly Dao avatar displayed its might and allowed you, an ancestral Gragon, to identify these elixirs. They were both shocked. The quality of these elixirs was not very high. They were only at the peak of the middle grade. Middle grade elixirs were useful to cultivators below the Dao Lord level. However, for someone of the Xian Daozu status, they were clearly nothing. However, not only were these elixirs extremely pure, but they were also refined using an ancient elixir refining method that had been lost for a long time. The value of any elixir was more than 10 times that of similar elixirs. Countless cultivators would risk their lives to fight for them. These 1,000 elixirs were almost the entire wealth of a Dao Lord expert. These elixirs were of different types and had different effects. Su Fong cultivated his primordial spirit avatar, Xianyang avatar, and Heavenly Dao avatar. It seems that my master is still very concerned about me. Su Fong was touched. However, he was also very clear that this was because he was valuable to the Xian Daozu. Otherwise, Why would the Shi Xian Daozu care about a small ant like him? Su Fong was also filled with anticipation. He had received such a huge reward just by advancing to the Dao True realm. What kind of shocking benefits would he receive if he broke through to the Dao Lord or Dao Lord level? Su Fong gave Shroud and Ancestral Gragon 10 elixirs, each to cultivate their primordial spirit and physical body, respectively. The benefits to them were naturally shocking. Shroud accepted it without hesitation, while Ancestral Gragon was unusually excited. At the same time, he was deeply moved. After being squeezed dry by Su Fong, there was finally a return, and the return was so shocking. It's time to leave Flowing Flame Waterfall and go to the Eastern Xian Divine Domain's mystic world, Su Fong decided. Then, he transmitted his thoughts to the Flame Beast. Do you want to stay in Flowing Flame Waterfall or follow me to Dongxian and then leave? Unexpectedly, the Flame Beast shook its head repeatedly. Master, I am willing to follow you. This divine beast was quite intelligent. It was still a cub at this time. Whether it stayed in Flowing Flame Waterfall or went to Dongxian, it could not escape the fate of being shackled or slaughtered by human cultivators. Su Fong easily erased the shackles of the Flame Beast's primordial spirit, and it witnessed the shocking scene of Su Fong's advancement to the Dao True realm, especially the scene of Shi Xian Daozu erasing the heavenly tribulation. Although it did not see Shi Xian Daozu, it could still sense some clues which shocked and awed the Flame Beast. Moreover, Su Fong kept his promise and let the Flame Beast go. Where could it find such a master? Su Fong nodded and said, Since you want to recognize me as your master, I will not refuse, but I still have to shackle your primordial spirit. Do you understand? The Flame Beast agreed without hesitation. Su Fong used the power of his avatar and turned it into a seal seed, shackling the Flame Beast's primordial spirit. Then he put the Flame Beast into the space inside the True Yang vanquishing evil sword and placed it in the Joshuan Palace. Xianyang avatar merge. With a thought, Su Fong's Xianyang avatar walked out of the Joshuan Palace and immediately merged with his physical body. A Xianyang celestial aura that surpassed pure Yang surged out of Su Fong's body, forming a protective aura around him. Then, Su Fong punched the previously sealed cave crack and blasted a huge crack. Facing the surging magma, he calmly shuttled out. Under the profound sun divine might, the surrounding magma was controlled, and the magma rolled to the sides. Su Fong flew slowly, and compared to when he entered the magma before, it was unknown how much easier and calmer it was. Feeling the powerful force again, Su Fong was very happy. Swoosh! Su Fong rushed out of the magma waterfall and came to the top of Flowing Flame Waterfall. Kid, since you're not dead, then I will make you suffer. I will pull out your tendons and skin you alive. Chapter 26:20. Su Fong was besieged by more than 30 mercenaries, but he did not panic at all. Instead, he was eager to give it a try. Su Fong had just advanced to the Daojun realm and was planning to find someone to test his strength. He did not expect that these mercenaries would take the initiative to come to him. He could use them to test his strength and at the same time solve the enmity of capturing him as a slave. You actually got rid of the slave seal. The mercenary leader glanced at Su Fong's face and found that the slave seal on Su Fong's face was gone. He was surprised. Su Fong had advanced to the Daojun realm and reconstructed his body. No matter how powerful the slave seal was, it would disappear. Moreover, the mercenary leader was not a real peerless expert. Su Fong could easily use the life-shrinking technique to erase the slave seal. Then, the mercenary leader sensed from Su Fong's aura that Su Fong was no longer a fake god, but a real Daojun realm immortal. He was surprised and shocked again. A slave is a slave. Even if you get rid of the slave seal and advance to the Daojun realm, you are still Miss Pang's slave. A lowly slave dared to betray Miss Pang. Death! The mercenary leader shouted coldly. Hand over the flame dream illusory cloud and flame beast. Maybe Miss Pang will be soft-hearted and spare your dog life. The mercenary leader kept calling Su Fong a slave. This made Su Fong's heart suddenly surge with a strong killing intent. He said coldly, "The flame dream illusory cloud was naturally devoured by me. The flame beast also recognized me as its master. If you want it, you can take it. Lowly slave, you actually devoured Miss Pang's flame dream illusory cloud. I will skin you and refine your soul." The mercenary leader was completely furious and lost his usual dignity in front of the mercenaries and slaves. Miss Pang spent so much effort to get the flame dream illusory cloud, but it was taken away by a slave in the end. Moreover, Su Fong came from the mercenary leader. Once the Pang clan vented their anger on him, how could he not be angry? "Catch him alive," the mercenary leader immediately ordered. A young mercenary grinned and rushed towards Su Fong. Whoosh! The young mercenary activated a black rope, which shot towards Su Fong like a poisonous snake. This kind of black rope-like Xian Bao was specially used by mercenaries to capture slaves and divine beasts. Although the quality was not high, it was quite difficult to deal with. The mercenary was quite skilled in using it, and at this time, he was facing a slave who had just advanced from the false god realm to the true god realm. How could he not capture him easily? Whoosh! Su Fong stepped into the air and pulled out a black Xian Guang from his palm. It was actually the same black rope as the mercenary. It was the Xian bow that Su Fong had obtained from killing the 3 mercenaries. The 2 ropes intertwined, but Su Fong had already closed in on the young mercenary in a split second. Using his physical strength, he punched out. Pung! With a dull explosion, the mercenary's physical body was blown up by Su Fong, turning into a mass of minced meat. After advancing to the true God realm, Su Fong's perfect realm physical body had also transformed. It was so powerful that he could kill a true God realm mercenary with a single punch. All the mercenaries were stunned, and then disbelief appeared in their eyes. Su Fong flew in the air and punched out again. A mercenary blocking the way in front retreated in horror. Su Fong took the opportunity to rush out of the encirclement and flew into the rolling magma waterfall. "Catch him! If you let this slave escape, none of you will live." The mercenary leader roared, and more than 30 mercenaries rushed into the magma waterfall together. Boom! As soon as those mercenaries rushed into the waterfall, the surrounding magma suddenly swept towards them. Although these mercenaries were able to safely enter and exit the lava waterfall with their defenses and the might of their Xian treasures, under the crazy impact of the torrent of lava, it was definitely not something that those Dao True Realm mercenaries could endure. Nearly 10 mercenaries at the front had their defenses broken by the magma flood. The boiling magma instantly burned their flesh, and even if they didn't die, they were seriously injured. That slave has the ability to control magma. Retreat, retreat. The mercenaries at the back turned pale with fright and quickly retreated. The mercenary leader was a true God realm expert, so he rushed into the magma waterfall without any hesitation. Die! Su Fong's voice filled with killing intent came from the magma waterfall. His mystic Yang true body merged with his physical body, and he used the Yang refinement mystic technique to control the rolling magma around him, sweeping towards the mercenary leader. A mere true God realm slave wants to fight a true God realm expert. The mercenary leader sneered at Su Fong. His glabella suddenly split open, and his avatar rushed out of the Shantian Dao Palace. The avatar of the mercenary leader was very strange. It had the same appearance as him, but it was emitting a strong demonic aura. His face wriggled, and his skin changed as well. He quickly turned into a monster with a human body and a python's head. His eyes were cold and emitted a cold aura, causing the surrounding magma to suddenly drop in temperature. Hiss! QL11, there was a hissing sound that sounded like a viper's tongue. A black light that was invisible to the naked eye leaped out of the embodiment's eyes. It turned into a small python that was more than a foot long and instantly appeared between Su Fong's eyebrows. The python opened its mouth and sucked at Su Fong's head. Su Fong felt that his soul was about to leave his body, and his Dao heart and willpower were about to be devoured. His mental world was also about to collapse. This is a true God realm expert's thought attack. Su Fong felt the tremors from his mental world, and he was shocked. Thoughts were different from primordial spirit attacks. Thoughts were the fusion of a cultivator's divine will, willpower, and the meaning of Tao. It attacked the enemy's highest origin soul, and attacked the mental world and Tao heart and willpower. When one cultivated to a certain level, thoughts could be combined with strength to turn into a real divine ability to seal, shackle, or kill a strong enemy. An even more powerful expert could create a world with a thought, cut off the life of a strong enemy, or bestow great strength to a cultivator. This was the so-called God's grace. Su Fong had just advanced to the true God realm, so he couldn't condense his thoughts to attack. However, he had a true God realm avatar, so he could release a powerful true God realm aura that surpassed that of a true God realm cultivator. Chi, the true God realm avatar, used the soul-shattering thunderous roar and came out of the Jiuquan Dao Palace. Although the soul-shattering thunderous roar was only a true God realm divine ability of the Pansong universe, the power of the true God realm's second primordial spirit and Su Fong's primordial spirit had turned into a true God realm avatar. The power of the true God realm's second primordial spirit had become extremely shocking. In the void true God realm's true God realm avatar, the thought released by the mercenary leader's avatar was instantly shattered. A cultivator who has just advanced to the true God realm actually has such a shocking power of the true God realm. The divine light of the mercenary leader's avatar changed, and his figure staggered. Losing a thought had caused some damage to the avatar. Devouring Sky Divine Python, Devour. The avatar directly used the devouring ability and let out a gloomy roar. It suddenly opened its mouth and erupted with a devouring divine aura, sucking Su Fong and the surrounding magma over. Suddenly, Su Fong shot out a dark divine light, which turned into a rock that was 10 feet in size. It suddenly erupted with a majestic gravitational force. It was the stone spirit monster. The devouring divine aura of the mercenary leader suddenly distorted under the majestic gravitational force. The avatar sank, and it almost couldn't maintain its flying state. Boom! The stone spirit borrowed the power of the mercenary leader's devouring ability and flew out. With a boom, it smashed into the mouth of the mercenary leader. The lower jaw was smashed into pieces, and the avatar was sent flying. The avatar wasn't a physical body, and it could recover quickly by circulating its magic power. It only consumed a little magic power. However, Su Fong was determined to kill the mercenary leader. With the help of the stone spirit, how could he give the mercenary leader a chance to breathe? He immediately merged his Xianyang avatar with his physical body and used the great giant avatar of the Vajra. He turned into a golden giant that was almost 10 feet tall. He strode out like a bolt of golden lightning and bombarded the avatar of the mercenary leader with a fist of destruction. Su Fong had limited supernatural powers at this time. The great giant avatar of the Vajra came from the 9 changes of the 9 suns. He could still use it after advancing to the true God realm. With the help of the Xianyang avatar, its power was still unparalleled. Su Fong also used the godly annihilation fist from the primordial origin, Sacred Mirror. The primordial yang mirror of the primordial origin Sacred Mirror had become a part of the celestial yang Dharma body, which made the godly annihilation fist more powerful than the ordinary sacred arts of the 9 profound divine realm. Puff! Under the bombardment of the fist of destruction, the avatar of the mercenary leader shattered layer by layer. The divine runes that formed the avatar collapsed one by one. Although the avatar's recovery speed was fast, it could not exceed the speed of destruction. In the end, the entire avatar completely collapsed, which meant that the avatar had completely fallen. Lowly slave, you destroyed my avatar. I will not rest until you die. The mercenary leader's physical body was shocked and angry. However, most of his strength came from his avatar. The strength of his physical body was very limited. Although he had the burning heaven wrath now, he could only run for his life. How could he really dare to fight Su Fong? It was impossible for him to run for his life. Pa! A thunderbolt shot out from the magma and bombarded the body of the mercenary leader. It was the flame beast that had been lying in ambush in the magma. The lightning released by the flame beast blasted a large hole in the body of the mercenary leader. Although it was not fatal, it was still a serious injury. At this time, Su Fong attacked again. He used the Titan Palm and sent out golden palm prints, shattering the body of the mercenary leader. A Tao Lord expert's physical body and avatar were both killed by Su Fong. This meant that he had fallen. You took me as a slave, so I will take your life. It is your honor to be the first Jiuquan expert to die at the hands of me, Su Fong. Su Fong felt absolutely delighted at having slain a Tao Lord. He sucked the body of the mercenary leader into the Jiuquan Tao Palace and sent it to the Heavenly Path avatar to be sealed. This was the body of a Tao Lord expert, and it contained an astonishing amount of life essence. He could not waste it. Su Fong put away the flame beast and the stone spirit and flew out of the magma waterfall. His sharp gaze swept across the mercenaries. He said domineeringly, "I have killed your leader. Who else wants to die?" The mercenaries were scared out of their wits. They fled frantically and soon disappeared. On the rocks outside the flowing flame waterfall, the Miss of the Pang clan and the dozen or so experts of the Pang clan had planned to let the mercenaries suppress Su Fong. They had no intention of helping. Chapter 26-21. In the Jiuquan realm of the gods, there were some who were stronger than themselves. They were all true geniuses and experts. A false god who had just ascended to the true Tao realm was actually able to kill a Tao Lord. It was truly unbelievable. It felt like an ant killing an elephant. Humph! A lowly slave who devoured the flaming dream illusory cloud and became so strong. It's obvious that the flaming dream illusory cloud is an amazing treasure. Such a lowly ant dared to devour my treasure. How can I let you live? Traces of coldness seeped out from the huge lady's eyes. One of the experts from the Pang clan was about to enter the depths of the flowing flame waterfall to kill Su Fong when Pang Zhong, the old man with a goatee, stopped him. Wait! Miss Pang raised her eyebrows. Granduncle, what do you mean? Pang Zhong's eyes were solemn. That slave is not simple. Killing him will bring great trouble to the Pang clan. Miss Pang was startled. Then she snorted. A lowly slave from a low-level universe. Even if he is extraordinary, what trouble can he bring to our clan? Pang Zhong said, "Have you forgotten about the heavenly tribulation that appeared and disappeared not long ago?" Miss Pang and the experts from the Pang clan were stunned. Miss Pang asked in surprise, "Granduncle, are you saying that the slave attracted the heavenly tribulation because he reached the Tao true realm?" Pang Zhong nodded. Most likely. Think about it. That slave can lift the seal on the flaming beast and attract the heavenly tribulation. He also has the means to stop it. How can he be simple? He paused for a moment and then said in a serious tone, "I even suspect that he has a peerless expert protecting him. Provoking such a person for the flaming dream illusory cloud is not worth the loss." Miss Pang snorted. "Are we just going to let it go? If word of my treasure being robbed by a slave gets out, where will my face go?" Pang Zhong shook his head. "Since the flaming dream illusory cloud has been devoured, killing him won't help. If he can be used by my Pang clan, it could be considered as making up for our losses. Young mistress, don't forget that in 1,000 years, our clan will have a competition with the Xian clan. This person is the best candidate for the Tao True Realm Genius Battle." Miss Pang frowned slightly, and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. Whether or not that slave was accompanied by an expert was only Granduncle's guess. If this person has the ability, then give him a way out and let him work for the Pang clan. If you don't have the ability, then there's no reason to continue living. After she finished speaking, a crimson flame gushed out from her body and instantly enveloped her body. A pair of fiery wings extended out from her back, and with a whoosh, she flew out like a firebird. Due to the interference of the surrounding magma, Su Fong was unable to sense the experts of the Pang clan on the outer rocks. After killing the mercenary leader and scaring off the rest of the mercenaries, Yang Kai was just about to leave Flowing Flame Waterfall when he saw a streak of flame flying towards him. Sensing the aura of destiny in the flame, Su Fong raised his eyebrows. It's the young mistress of the Pang clan. I didn't expect her to stay in Flowing Flame Waterfall. This is going to be troublesome. He had underestimated the importance of the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud to Miss Pang. For the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud, she had actually stayed in Flowing Flame Waterfall to wait for Su Fong to appear. By the time Su Fong reacted, Miss Pang was already 1,000 feet away. Although Su Fong had the embryonic forms of profound yang, heavenly Tao, and primordial spirit, he had not mastered any movement divine ability. It was already too late for him to escape. More than a dozen experts of the Pang clan also rushed over from behind and surrounded Su Fong. However, they had no intention of attacking. Miss Pang stood in the air, and with a domineering and arrogant tone, she shouted coldly, "I'll give you two choices. One is fortune, and the other is death. Choose." Su Fong raised his eyebrows. "Fortune." Miss Pang frowned coldly. "Obediently submit and become a slave of the Pang clan. This is your fortune. Otherwise, you can only repay the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud with your life." I don't want to choose either of the two choices. Maybe I have a third choice. Now that things had come to this, Su Fong could only give it his all. A frog at the bottom of a well from a low-level universe. Miss Pang sneered disdainfully. A flame shot out from between her eyebrows and instantly enveloped Su Fong in flames. These were not real flames, but attacks formed from thoughts. They had no effect on Su Fong's physical body, but Su Fong felt as if his entire body and Jiuquan Dao Palace were on fire. Even his soul was being burned by the raging flames. Miss Pang's cultivation was one level higher than the mercenary leaders. She was a mid-level Dao Lord expert. Not only was her cultivation, but her thoughts attacks were also 10 times more powerful than the mercenary leaders. If an ordinary Dao True Realm cultivator was attacked by this thought attack, their soul essence would be incinerated in an instant. No matter how powerful their physical body or avatar was, it would lose its meaning. The strength of a genius from a powerful cultivation god clan was extraordinary. You think you can kill me with just a thought? You're underestimating me. Su Fong. Su Fong used the extreme Dao Black Yang art and a divine Dao aura that could control and refine all flames erupted. Although the extreme Dao Black Yang art was not a Dao art that condensed thoughts to attack, it came from the Shixian Daozu. The Dao art contained the supreme Dao aura of Xianyang, and it instantly refined the power of the thought attack that penetrated into his body. The Dao aura of Xianyang swept out and shook the illusory flames formed by Miss Pang's thoughts, but it did not shatter. Of course, this was not because the extreme Dao Black Yang art was not powerful enough, but because Su Fong had only grasped a little of the extreme Dao Black Yang art. In addition, it was only a Dao aura attack. It was enough to protect himself, but it was not very useful to attack the enemy's thoughts. What kind of divine ability is that? Miss Pang was not surprised. She sensed the astonishing Dao aura of the extreme Dao Black Yang art. Worried that her thoughts would be destroyed, she swept the flames formed by her thoughts back into the Dao Palace between her eyebrows. The goateed elder, Pang Zhong, transmitted his thoughts to Miss Pang. "Miss, the divine ability that this person has mastered is extraordinary. It is definitely not something that can be mastered by a cultivator from a low-level universe. You can't kill him." Miss Pang's heart was also filled with fear, but she did not hesitate to attack. "Show me all your skills. Let me see if you're qualified to get the third choice." Soon after, he released his Dharma body and quickly formed a seal. A ray of fire shot up into the sky and transformed into a huge flaming divine bird. It swept towards Su Fong, and the torrential flames were about to devour Su Fong. When the Dharma body attacked, Miss Pang's body turned into an astonishing state of flames. Not only did she cultivate her Dharma body, but she also cultivated an extraordinary divine ability. Whoosh! Miss Pang's body took a step forward. Her palms turned into fiery palm prints that pressed towards Su Fong with a burning aura. Su Fong merged his profound Yang Dharma body with his body and activated the Yang transformation technique, a divine power that could control and refine all the extreme Yang energy instantly enveloped his body. Under the power of the Yang transformation technique, Miss Pang's Dharma body and physical attacks were penetrated layer by layer. Then, they were controlled and refined by Su Fong. Immediately, they were pushed back toward the periphery. The two divine powers of flames collided and burned around Su Fong, causing explosions. Waves of flames surged. It was a strange and spectacular sight. Is this all you have? Although you have surpassed the Tao Truth realm and are quite extraordinary, it is still far from enough to save your life. Leave fire burning the sky, leave fire palm. Miss Pang's Dharma body and physical body shouted coldly at the same time. The flaming divine bird formed by the Dharma body hovered above Su Fong's head. Fireballs fell one after another, erupting with astonishing divine power of flames. Su Fong could no longer control the astonishing flames. His divine power was quickly suppressed. At the same time, Miss Pang's physical body sent out another flaming palm print. It melted Su Fong's defense. The palm print swept across the sky and slapped towards Su Fong's head. Chi! It was a critical moment. Su Fong's eyes shot out golden sword light. It turned into a blazing and vast sword chi. It tore apart Miss Pang's palm print, shattered the fireballs and the flaming divine bird that fell from the sky, and slashed toward her Dharma body. Peak Supreme Grade Divine Weapon. Stop! The goateed elder's divine light changed instantly. With a thought, a powerful flame barrier formed in front of Miss Pang's Dharma body and blocked the sword chi. Miss Pang's physical body turned pale. If it wasn't for the goateed elder, her Dharma body would have been severely injured even if it wasn't destroyed. Although she wouldn't die if her Dharma body was destroyed, she would have to spend 10 times more energy and resources to reconstruct her Dharma body. Almost half of her strength would be destroyed. Miss Pang was pampered and protected by the Pang clan. Even when she came to the flowing flame waterfall to search for treasures, she had never experienced such danger. She was so scared that her whole body trembled. Her eyes were filled with lingering fear. What shocked her the most was that Su Fong not only had an extraordinary grand divine skill, but the Xian Bao he activated just now was of peak supreme grade. Although the Pang clan didn't have many Xian Bao of this quality, it wasn't impossible for Miss Pang to get one. The problem was that she couldn't activate such a powerful Dharma treasure, even with her cultivation at the middle realm of Tao Lord. Moreover, Su Fong was only at the true realm of Tao Lord. This was what shocked her. The goateed elder's figure flashed and stood in front of Miss Pang's Dharma body. He looked at Su Fong and said, "Fortunately, you didn't hurt Miss Pang. Otherwise, do you know what would have happened?" Su Fong sneered. "She wants to kill me, but I can't hurt her. What's the meaning of this? Do I have to obediently stick my head out and let her kill me if she wants to kill me?" The goateed elder said coldly, "Aren't you afraid of death? Even if I die, I can still kill your Miss Pang." Su Fong used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. The Tao runes of fate flashed out from the chaos of the Jiushuan Tao Palace and the Tao Palace's boundary. The Tao runes' aura quickly condensed into a blade of life. The light of the Tao runes shrouded Miss Pang's physical body. This was Su Fong's greatest trump card. No matter how strong Miss Pang was, she couldn't resist the power of fate of the blade of life. If her fate was shattered, not only her physical body, but even her Dharma body would perish. Miss Pang sensed the threat of fate coming from the unseen world, and her beautiful face turned pale. "Stop. I don't mean to kill you. On the contrary, my clan wants to invite you to join us." Chapter 26-22. Join the Pang family? Su Fong was surprised before he sneered. "You want to kill me when you attack. Is this your way of inviting me?" The old man with the goatee said, "The first young miss saw that your excellency's strength was extraordinary and wanted to test you. If not for this old man would have attacked directly. Do you think you can kill even me?" Su Fong did not let down his guard. He said indifferently, I have no interest in joining the Pang family, and I don't want Miss Pang to force me into a life and death struggle. Farewell. Wait. The elder with the goatee quickly stopped him. Listen to what I have to say. It's not too late to make a decision then. Su Fong stopped in his tracks. The elder with the goatee said slowly, "You probably don't know about the Pang family's influence in Hua. We are one of the top 10 divine cultivation families in Hua. You have just come to the Jioshuan God realm from a low-level universe. If you don't have a force to nurture and support you, you won't be able to stand out no matter how talented you are. You might even become a slave and be at the mercy of others. As long as you join my clan, with your extraordinary talent, you will definitely not be buried." The Pang family's expert seemed to be trying to rope Su Fong in, but he was actually testing him. If Su Fong was willing to join, it meant that Su Fong did not have any expert or force behind him. If he rejected, the conclusion would be the opposite. Su Fong said decisively, "I'm sorry, I have no intention of joining any divine cultivation family. I can only accept the Pang family's kindness." When he entered Dongxian, Su Fong naturally had to choose a force and enter it to cultivate. It was impossible for him to roam Dongxian alone, as he was like a speck of dust in the 9 mystical divine domain. No matter how heaven-defying his talent was, it would be difficult for him to stand out. When he had a certain ability and establish himself in Dongxian, he would look for Dongxian Zheng and Dongxian Rong to save his grandfather's soul. At the same time, he would look for the spiritual item that could awaken Goddess Luo. However, Su Fong had no intention of joining any divine cultivation family. In a sect, as long as one became a disciple, one would be put in an important position sooner or later. But the cultivation families were different. Even if they were nurtured, they would always be outsiders. Sooner or later, they would be sacrificed as cannon fodder. Moreover, the Pang clan's sudden attempt to rope him and made Su Fong wary. Miss Pang coldly snorted and was about to get angry, but she was stopped by the goateed elder. He smiled at Su Fong and said, "Since you don't want to join, I won't force you. Why don't we make a deal with you?" Su Fong was surprised. "A deal? To tell you the truth, in another 1,000 years, our clan will have a very important battle with another cultivation god clan. There's a total of 3 battles. Daojian Realm, Daolord Realm, and Daolord Realm cultivators will each battle. Sir, you have the power to kill Daolords above your level of cultivation. Thus, I would like to invite you to represent the Pang clan in this battle against Daolords. Regardless of the outcome, our clan will reward you with a mid-grade Xian Bao, 10 mid-grade pills, and a divine ability. If you win, I promise you that you'll be able to choose any one of the 100 high-grade pills, the Pang clan scripture pavilion's legacy cultivation methods, and divine abilities, as well as any high-grade mystic treasure or high-grade pills." The goateed elder slowly revealed his true intentions to Su Fong. Moreover, he even offered generous conditions. The expressions of Miss Pang and the other experts of the Pang clan changed slightly. Clearly, they were surprised by the generous conditions offered by the goateed elder. Su Fong pondered for a moment and nodded. "I agree, but let me be frank. If the opponent is too strong, I won't fight them to the death. Moreover, regardless of the outcome, I'll leave the Pang clan after the battle. The Pang clan can't stop me." "That's right." The goateed elder smiled. "I'm Pang Zhong, an elder of the Pang clan. May I know your name?" Su Fong cupped his fists and said, "This one is Su Fong." The goateed elder said, "Because only members of the Pang clan can represent our clan in the battle against the god race 1,000 years later. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, we'll announce that you're not a member of the Pang clan." Su Fong nodded. "That's not a problem. Let's go. We've spent too much time at Flowing Flame Waterfall. It's time to return to the Fire Net Mystic World." Miss Pang didn't treat Su Fong well. After putting away her avatar, she took out her flying chariot Xian Bao. Su Fong and the other experts of the Pang clan entered the flying chariot. The Xian Bao was activated and the wheels ignited. With a whoosh, the flying chariot soared into the sky and quickly left Flowing Flame Waterfall. On the way to the Fire Net Mystic World, except for Pang Zhong, the other members of the Pang clan were indifferent to Su Fong. It was no wonder. In their minds, Su Fong was a low-level existence from a low-level universe. Moreover, the Pang clan had sacrificed 3 experts for the Flame Dream illusory cloud. In the end, Su Fong had benefited from it. How could these Pang clan members treat him with respect? In an independent space inside the flying chariot, Miss Pang raised her doubts to the goateed elder. Granduncle, although Su Fong does have some reputation and is qualified to represent our Pang clan, he's still a low-level existence from a low-level universe. Why are you treating him so courteously? The old man said in a low voice. Even though Su Fong is from a low-level universe, he possesses extraordinary divine abilities and dark treasures, and it's sufficient to prove that my earlier judgment wasn't wrong. He definitely has the support of an expert, and that expert is at least an expert above the Downlord realm. Why? The last divine ability Su Fong used to threaten you is a fate divine ability. It comes from the central profound divine domain's most mysterious destiny platform. Now you should understand how mysterious this person is, right? Destiny platform? Miss Pang shuddered and didn't ask any more questions. The goateed elder stroked his beard and said proudly, when he fights with the Xian clan, if he wins with the Xian clan's vengeful style, they won't let him go. If he lost, the Xian clan would definitely kill him. In this way, it's equivalent to attracting a powerful enemy to the Xian clan. It's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. What's a small price to pay? Miss Pang's eyes lit up. Granduncle is wise. The flying chariot flew through the chaotic void for half a month before arriving at a mystic world on the outskirts of the profound wasteland. Then, Su Fong and the Pang clan members began to travel through the profound gate. From the eastern profound divine domain's profound yellow to the fire Luo mystic world where the Pang clan resided, Su Fong wouldn't even be able to fly for 300,000 years. Even with Miss Pang's flying chariot, it would take several thousand years. Only through the profound gate could one traverse through the profound world. The profound gate was like the profound gate that connected the minor worlds and the major worlds, the stargate that connected the various worlds. Traversing through the profound world was extremely fast, but the price was also very high. Let alone Su Fong, even ordinary Dao monarchs did not have the financial resources to do so. After nearly a year of traveling through mystic worlds, they finally arrived at the Fire Luo mystic world. The Fire Luo mystic world was considered a major world in the Jiuquan divine domain. The main forces were the divine cultivation clans. Although there were many sects and factions, they were all weak forces that couldn't compete with the Pang clan. After entering the Fire Luo mystic world and flying, the old man with the goatee told Su Fong about the Fire Luo mystic world and the various divine cultivation clans. It was Su Fong's first time entering the Jiuquan divine domain's cultivation world. What he saw and heard along the way was an eye-opener for him. He was like a country bumpkin who had just entered a city. When Miss Pang saw him, she felt a wave of disdain in her heart. Su Fong also saw that the Pang clan was a powerful force that covered almost the entire Fire Luo mystic world. Every time he passed by a city, there would be cultivators coming to respectfully send him off. The Pang clan was one of the top 10 divine cultivation clans in the Fire Luo mystic world, ranked 4th. Other than having peerless experts surpassing Dao monarchs, the Pang clan also possessed powerful fire tribute techniques and abilities. Moreover, the Pang clan was famous for being proficient in refining artifacts. Because of their wealth, they had stood tall in the Fire Luo mystic world for several epochs. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. When they arrived at a desolate mountain range, the old man with the goatee said, "We're about to enter my clan." Su Fong couldn't help but be stunned when he saw that there were only desolate mountains everywhere. It was completely different from what he had imagined. Miss Pang and the other cultivators of the Pang clan all looked at Su Fong with disdain. QL11, the old man with the goatee, chuckled and said, "Su Fong, you come from a low-level universe, so it's natural that you don't know about the forces in the Jiuquan divine domain. In the Jiuquan divine domain, all the powerful sects and divine cultivation clans use the mystic world as their foundation. They open up a universe and gather the essence of the mystic world to create a cultivation mystic realm. My Pang clan is one of the top forces in the Fire Luo mystic world, so we naturally have our own mystic realm. The cities you saw before and the forces built on the spirit lands are just the worlds of mortals and low-level cultivators. Su Fong suddenly understood and smiled embarrassedly. They came to a huge canyon surrounded by clouds and mist that blocked their line of sight, so they couldn't see the scenery inside. A cultivator of the Pang clan took out a fiery red token and activated it, shooting a red light into the canyon. The clouds and mist tumbled rapidly and turned into an array passage. Miss Pang took the lead and entered it, followed by Su Fong and the other cultivators of the Pang clan. It felt like they were only one step away from stepping into another universe. In front of them was a towering mountain that gave people a feeling of shaking the heavens. Su Fong felt as small as an ant. From the giant mountain, there was a strong mystic world's essence. It was indeed a holy land for cultivation. In the depths of the giant mountain, there were many cultivation halls. From time to time, there were cultivators flying in and out of the halls. It was a bustling scene. The place where Su Fong appeared was a huge mountain gate surrounded by a huge barrier. If one wanted to enter the mountain, they had to pass through the mountain gate. The cultivators guarding the mountain gate came forward to greet them. Miss Pang led everyone inside the mountain gate. Unexpectedly, a group of people came out of the mountain gate, forcing Miss Pang and the others to retreat. When she saw the young man in the lead, Miss Pang, who was originally angry, snorted coldly and suppressed her anger. The young man was about 24 or 25 years old. He had a strong body and a delicate face that only a woman would have. He gave off a coquettish feeling. Chapter 26-23. The old man with the goatee hurriedly said, reporting to young Master Yin, because of some accidents during this trip to Flowing Flame Waterfall, we lost 3 of our family's masters. This old master will take all the blame and will explain it to the family. The young man smiled faintly. Granduncle, you're exaggerating. I was just asking casually. I'm worried that Pang Yu is young and immature and will let our clan members die in vain. Su Fong finally understood what was going on. The young man obviously had a conflict with Miss Pang, which was a common occurrence in any family. Moreover, that young man's cultivation and authority in the Pang clan were superior to Miss Pang's. Even Miss Pang had no choice but to swallow her pride and submit to such an overbearing attitude. Even Pang Zhong, a Dao Lord, had no choice but to treat him with respect. The young man glanced at Su Fong and asked with a frown, "Who is this person? How can a Dao master ant from a low-level universe, who hasn't even passed the heavenly tribulation, be brought into the Pang clan?" This person was indeed extraordinary to be able to sense Su Fong's aura from a low-level universe. The old man with the goatee was about to explain when a small door in front of the mountain flashed, and another person entered the Pang clan's secret realm. It was a young man in starry robes who was about 20 years old. His face was pale, but he was extraordinarily handsome, and his eyes were filled with arrogance. QL11 Miss Pang's expression turned extremely ugly when she saw the young man. Young Master Yin, on the other hand, revealed a rare smile and went up to greet him. "Young Masterling, what a coincidence. Little sister has just returned. I knew that little sister you had returned, so I hurried over." Young Masterling cupped his fists and smiled at young Master Yin, then looked at Miss Pang. This person was Miss Pang's admirer. Moreover, he seemed to have a powerful background. Even the overbearing young master, Yin had to put down his arrogance. Su Fong secretly transmitted his thoughts to the old man with the goatee. "Lord Pang Zhong, who are these 2 people? Young Master Yin is our clan's young master, Pang Yin. Since Miss Pang is favored by the ancestor, the young master is wary of her and often targets her. If young Master Yin does anything out of line against you, don't go against him. That young Masterling's name is Ling Xing Ong, from the Thousand Growth Profound World's True Cultivation God Clan. Not only is he a special disciple of a top sect in Jiuxuan's God Realm, but he's also a genius on the mysterious sky ranking. Even my clan has to be wary of him. That Ling Xingong is naturally dissolute and flirts everywhere. He actually took a fancy to Eldest Miss and has been pestering Eldest Miss all these years, causing Eldest Miss to be extremely annoyed. However, young Master Pang, Yin is trying his best to matchmake them. The goateed elder explained. Su Fong finally understood, but he didn't say anything. Little sister, long time no see. Big brother missed you so much. I heard that you went to Flowing Flame Waterfall. Why didn't you call Big Brother along? Ling Xingong walked over with large strides. He was very affectionate towards Miss Pang, and his tone gave people goosebumps. Let's go. Miss Pang showed a look of disgust. She grabbed Su Fong's hand and walked inside the mountain gate. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. Miss Pang's action seemed unintentional, but it was actually quite scheming. She was planning to use him as a shield. Things weren't looking good. Ling Xingyang's face immediately darkened. Using his warm face to rub against someone's cold butt and being intimate with another man right in front of his face. No matter how thick Ling Xingyang's skin was, he couldn't hold it in anymore. Pang Yin smiled coldly and suddenly shouted, Pang Yu, how dare you bring an outsider into my clan? Pang Zhong hurriedly explained, Young Master Yin, this person isn't an outsider. He's a cultivator with a different surname that Eldest Miss just recruited. A cultivator with a different surname? Pang Yan's sharp gaze swept over Su Fong. Then he sneered domineeringly. An ant from a low-level universe isn't even qualified to be my clan's slave. Is he worthy of being recruited by my clan? Miss Pang finally couldn't take it anymore and retorted, Young Master Yin, I'm the Pang clan's eldest Mississippi. Do I not even have the right to recruit a cultivator with a different surname? Do you want me to go see the ancestor and let him make a decision? Pang Yin didn't dare to be too presumptuous after bringing out the Pang clan's ancestor. Therefore, he turned his attention to Su Fong. Of course you have the right to recruit a cultivator with a different surname. However, this person is of lowly origin and his strength is so low. How could he have the right to enter my clan through the main gate? The small gate on the right, which is specially used for servants and servants, is suitable for him. Miss Pang frowned coldly. Pang Yin, don't go too far. Pang Yin said indifferently, My Pang clan's rules are like this. Even if you find the ancestor, he won't make an exception for you. If this person wants to enter the Pang clan, not only does he have to walk through the gate used by servants and servants, but because it's his first time, he also has to kneel 3 times and cow down 9 times before he can enter. This person was quite scheming. Of course, he could see that Su Fong couldn't possibly have any unclear relationship with Miss Pang. However, Su Fong had been recruited by Miss Pang. Humiliating Su Fong now was naturally a blow to her reputation in the Pang clan. The internal struggles of the divine cultivation clans were cruel. They were constantly scheming against each other. Ling Xingong also spoke up. Young Master Yin is right. What kind of power is the Pang clan? If a lowly servant enters through the main gate, wouldn't it become a joke? The experts guarding the gate blocked the main gate under Pang Yan's instructions. Miss Pang's face turned cold, but she couldn't do anything. The goateed elder apologized to Su Fong. Su Fong, why don't you put up with it for a while? I have to kneel 3 times and cow down 9 times before I walk through the gate used by servants? Su Fong frowned. He didn't expect that entering the Pang clan would be so troublesome. You want to cling to my clan because you want to benefit from it. If you don't even have this little bit of respect for my clan, how can we accept you? We also won't give you benefits for free. It's not impossible for you to enter my clan with your head held high. The gate on the left is for the disciples of the Pang clan who are out to train, as well as the experts who want to join our clan. If you have the strength, you can walk in with your head held high. If you perform well, you might even be welcomed by the divine welcoming bell. Pang Yin looked at Su Fong with disdain. A supreme, domineering aura rose from him. Su Fong looked at the sealed side door on the left side of the mountain gate and asked Pang Zhong, Lord Pang Zhong, is there any difficulty in passing through that door? Pang Zhong smiled bitterly. If you enter through that gate, you'll have to go through many tests. Without a Dao Lord cultivation base, it will be difficult to enter the Pang clan. During the tests, no Xian Bao can be used. Ling Xingong suddenly said, Since little sister you wants to recruit you, you must be extraordinary. Why don't you walk through the gate on the left and prove it to everyone? If you don't dare, I'll accompany you. How about it? Without waiting for Su Fong to speak, Miss Pang shouted, "There's no way you can enter my clan through that gate. You should give up on that idea as soon as possible so that you don't embarrass me. Do you think it's wrong for you to enter the Pang clan through the right gate?" Su Fong coldly touched the tip of his nose. "If I can enter the Pang clan with my head held high, why should I kneel? I'll take the gate on the left." With that, he strode towards the gate on the left. "You really have guts. I admire you. Since that's the case, I'll accompany you." Ling Xingong laughed loudly. He then said to Miss Pang, "Little sister I'll make the divine welcoming bell ring for me. When the time comes, I'll propose marriage to the Pang clan's ancestor. Just you wait." Miss Pang was so angry that her face turned pale, not only because of Ling Xingong, but also because of Su Fong. Su Fong passed through the barrier. As soon as he entered the gate, he immediately arrived in a world of flames. In the midst of the raging flames, a narrow wooden bridge stretched far into the distance. It was unknown how long it stretched. Below the single-plank bridge, pillars of fire continuously shot up into the sky and struck the single-plank bridge, causing it to tremble. Clouds of fire constantly swept over from both sides. Fireballs of various sizes also fell from the sky and smashed into the bridge, creating huge waves of fire that swept out in all directions. The Pang clan dominated the Fire Net divine realm with their fire elemental techniques and divine abilities. It wasn't strange for them to test their clansmen and cultivators who wanted to join the Pang clan with the divine might of fire. However, the flames were truly astonishing. The further they went, the denser the pillars of fire, clouds of fire, and fireballs. No wonder Pang Zhong and Miss Pang didn't think highly of Su Fong. Even a Dao Lord expert would find it difficult to pass such a test, let alone a Dao True Realm cultivator. If this was any other test, it would be difficult for me to pass. However, I have mastered the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic and can control the extreme Yang energy of fire and lightning. Moreover, I fused with the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud and the Flowing Flame Waterfall and obtained the special ability of the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud. My mastery of the extreme Dao Black Yang tactic has improved a lot over the years. Why would I be afraid of such a test? Su Fong revealed a domineering aura that could only be found in the myriad worlds as he stepped onto the wooden bridge. The shocking shackles made it difficult for Su Fong to fly. He could only walk. Moreover, the bridge constantly emitted high temperatures that burned his feet. It was a test for him at all times. Su Fong smiled slightly. His profound Yang avatar fused with his physical body. Then, he used the Yang transformation technique. Divine might poured out from his body and permeated the surrounding space. He controlled the power of fire and strode forward. After walking for a few dozen feet, Ling Xingong appeared at the starting point of the bridge. Whoosh, Ling Xingong switched between his avatar and his physical body. His avatar was very strange. It was a human figure that was outlined by dots of light. Those dots of light were like stars, and his avatar was the vast and empty starry sky. After stepping onto the bridge, the flames swept toward him and were directly devoured by his avatar. His illusory avatar was like a huge black hole that kept devouring the flames. Those star-like dots of light became brighter and brighter. Looking at Su Fong's back, Ling Xingong said with a murderous aura, "How can a lowly slave like you touch the woman that I like? I will turn you into a pile of ashes here." Chapter 26-24. Lowly slave, how dare you be so arrogant and provoke me? I'll crush your bones and scatter your ashes. Ling Xingong was enraged and sped up. This person was truly an extraordinary genius. He had an extraordinary avatar and an astonishing mid-level Dao Lord cultivation base. He strode forward on the single-plank bridge and soon caught up to Su Fong. Inside the Pang clan, on the ridge of the giant mountain, Miss Pang, the goateed elder, and a dozen Pang clan cultivators had already arrived through the main gate. The Pang clan's young master, Pang Yin, also stood on the ridge with his subordinates. With his status, he naturally wouldn't pay attention to Su Fong, an ant from a low-level universe. Pang Yan's attention was on Ling Xingong. He hoped to establish a relationship with his brother through Ling Xingong. He also wanted to use this matter to humiliate Miss Pang. Several pairs of eyes were observing the formation space that was specifically used to test cultivators. Miss Pang's face was cold, and her eyes were frozen. Of course, she wasn't worried about Su Fong's safety. Why would she care about Su Fong's life or death? She was not only worried about her own reputation, but also about Ling Xingong. The so-called welcoming divine bell was a divine artifact of the Pang clan. When cultivators from other forces came to visit the mountain, if they showed enough strength, the welcoming divine bell would automatically ring to show respect to the strong. Once the bell rang, it would alert the big shots in the clan. Even the patriarch might be alerted and personally come out to receive the guest. Although that Ling Xingong was naturally dissolute, his strength was definitely genuine. Around 1,000? He was a peerless genius in the S-level world. If he really did perform well in the test and caused the welcoming divine bell to ring, alerting the big shots in the clan, he would take the opportunity to propose marriage to the patriarch. How would she express her goodwill? It's all Su Fong's fault. If it weren't for him, Ling Xingong wouldn't have gone through the side door. If that disgusting Ling Xingong really causes the welcoming divine bell to ring. Miss Pang shuddered at the thought of the consequences. She looked at Su Fong on the single plank bridge and gritted her teeth. Pang Yan's laughter rang out. Pang Yu, are you worried about Mr. Ling? Young Master Ling's talent is extraordinary. It is not impossible for him to cause the divine welcoming bell to ring. When the time comes for him to propose marriage to the patriarch will definitely agree. You and young Master Ling becoming Dao companions is also a joyous occasion for our Pang clan. Pang Yan's wanton ridicule caused Miss Pang's expression to turn even uglier. Then, Pang Yan looked at Su Fong and sneered indifferently. That slave of yours has some backbone, but sometimes backbone is stupidity. Is it worth it for you to spend so much effort to recruit such an overconfident madman? It's good that young Master Ling killed this person, lest he embarrasses our clan. Before he could finish his sentence, seeing that Su Fong was about to be overtaken by Ling Xingong, Su Fong activated his Xianyang Dharma body's ability. Using the Yang refining mysterious technique, he ran wildly on the single plank bridge. Soon, the distance between him and Ling Xingong was widened once again. This scene did not surprise Pang Yan. Soon after, he sneered in disdain. This slave does have some skill. Unfortunately, he won't be able to escape. He won't last long. The goateed elder Pang Zhong suddenly transmitted a message to Miss Pang. Miss, that Su Fong has an extraordinary ability to control fire. Moreover, he seems to have improved a lot compared to when he was at the Flowing Flame Waterfall. He might be able to pass the test. Don't worry, Mississippi, Miss Pang replied. No matter how extraordinary he is, can he surpass Ling Xingong? The goateed elder shook his head and sighed. Of course, Su Fong would not be able to surpass Ling Xingong. Not only would he be unable to protect his own life, but he would also bring misfortune to Miss Pang. Half an hour passed. The deeper they went into the single plank bridge, the more shocking the fire pillars, fire clouds, and fireballs were from below, above, and above the bridge. Although Ling Xingong's strength was extraordinary and he had a transcendent Dharma body, he had no choice but to carefully avoid the dangers that came from all directions. As the attacks became more and more violent, there was nowhere for him to dodge. Ling Xingong had no choice but to use a barrier to defend against the fierce attacks. Naturally, his advancing speed slowed down. In the end, he became like a snail. Not only did he not catch up to Su Fong, but the distance between Su Fong and Ling Xingong was getting further and further. How can I, Ling Xingong, be inferior to a slave from a low-level universe? Ling Xingong clenched his teeth and urged the Dharma body's power to increase his speed. After chasing for a while, he finally saw Su Fong's figure. Looking at Su Fong again, Ling Xingong was dumbfounded. In a radius of 10 zhang around him, the fire pillars that came from below, immediately dispersed and turned into a mushroom cloud. The fire clouds that came from both sides circled around him and burned. There were also fireballs that fell from the sky. When they fell to a height of 10 zhong, they suddenly changed their falling trajectory and fell into the abyss below the single-plank bridge. Su Fong stood on the single-plank bridge with his hands behind his back. His steps were calm, and his figure was strong, as if he was taking a stroll. He saw a living ghost in broad daylight. Ling Xingong looked at Su Fong's back and was instantly stunned. That expression was even more shocking than a mortal seeing an evil ghost in broad daylight. Boom, boom, boom. 3 consecutive fireballs fell from the sky and hit Ling Xingong's barrier, causing it to shake violently. His body also swayed, and he almost fell off the single-plank bridge. Not only Ling Xingong, but the people of the Pang clan on a mountain ridge were also surprised and shocked. Unbelievable. A mere Dao True Realm cultivator who had just advanced and had not even transcended the heavenly tribulation had such an amazing ability to control fire. Compared to ordinary cultivators of the same level, even Dao Lord cultivators would find it difficult to compare with him. Pang Yan's expression became ugly. Miss Pang's frosty expression was swept away, and she laughed happily from time to time. Pang Yan secretly sent a message to Ling Xingong in the erase space. Mr. Ling, if you can't even beat a slave from a low-level universe, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to win Pang Yu's heart. Ling Xingong was anxious and angry. He chased after Su Fong, but how could he catch up with Su Fong? Su Fong suddenly stopped and turned to look at Ling Xingong. She said mockingly, "Mr. Ling, do you want me to wait for you for a while?" Ling Xingong gritted his teeth and shouted, "Lowly slave, you dare to humiliate me? Do you know who I am? If you offend me, you don't want to live anymore." Su Fong mocked and ridiculed again. "You said I am an ant, but you can't even beat a small ant like me. Then what are you? Other than being born handsome and having a good background, what else do you have?" Ling Xingong was completely enraged. He withdrew his defense, and his avatar exploded with full power. The stars on his avatar suddenly became brighter, and his avatar became more profound. He rushed towards Su Fong without caring about anything else. Su Fong panicked and ran forward with big steps. Su Fong looked like she could not hold on anymore. Ling Xingong was about to catch up, but the distance between them was quickly pulled apart. After a few times, Ling Xingong was already at the end of his rope. "Lowly ant, go to hell." Ling Xingong realized that he had been tricked by Su Fong, and he was completely enraged. The light spots on his Dharma body quickly shifted, and his Dharma body also changed shape. He turned from a human form into a winged beast, and he flew away from the single-plank bridge toward Su Fong. Poof! Su Fong was caught off guard. Ling Xingong's avatar turned into a winged beast and pounced on him. His body was directly smashed into pieces. "Brat, you dare play with me? I will make sure you die a horrible death." Ling Xingong was very proud and happy. "Who knew?" Suddenly, Pang Yin shouted, "Mr. Ling, be careful." "Be careful? Be careful of what?" Ling Xingong was stunned. Boom, boom, boom. Pillars of fire, clouds of fire, and fireballs came from all directions like a storm. They engulfed Ling Xingong in an instant. Luckily, a godly aura appeared in time from the space of the formation. It wrapped around Ling Xingong and pulled him out of the space of the formation. QL11, when he reappeared, he was already on the mountain ridge. He was surrounded by many experts of the Pang clan. Seeing the ridicule on Miss Pang's face and the strange look in the eyes of the other Pang clan cultivators, Ling Xingong was furious. However, he did not know what was going on. It turned out that the Su Fong that he attacked with all his might was just an illusion. The real Su Fong controlled the surrounding flames and attacked Ling Xingong fiercely. Ling Xingong was in big trouble. The ability to create illusions was a Xian Yang avatar ability that Su Fong had just cultivated after merging with the Flaming Dream illusory cloud. This was the extraordinary ability of the Xian Yang avatar and the extreme Xian Yang technique. Not only could it refine Yang energy and spiritual objects, but it could also use the innate ability of the flaming dream illusory cloud by devouring spiritual objects. The Yang refinement mysterious technique is indeed a unique superpower from the Daozu. The so-called Yang refinement mysterious technique is to refine the Yang energy. The mysterious transformation mysterious technique is to transform the Yang energy into a Xian Yang and continuously evolve the Xian Yang energy to use all kinds of abilities. Su Fong had a deeper understanding of the superpower from the extreme Xian Yang technique. He felt that this superpower was extraordinary. I have such an extraordinary superpower. In addition to the Jiushuan limitless scripture, the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, and the heavenly secret unravel, I have also cultivated the Jiushuan Dao Palace. Even in the Jiushuan God realm, where experts are as common as clouds, I can rise from the bottom just like I did in the Pang Tsang universe. Although the Pang clan is only my temporary foothold, if I don't show off my talents, I will be looked down upon by the Pang clan cultivators. This time, I might as well show off. Su Fong's heart was filled with confidence. He strode across the single-plank bridge like a meteor, like a streak of fiery light flitting across the bridge. About an hour later, an altar appeared on the right side of the single-plank bridge. There was an array formation on the altar. It was obviously for the cultivators who passed the test to leave. I passed the test. The Pang clan's test doesn't seem that difficult, Su Fong thought. Suddenly, dang, 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 a loud bell rang from the peak of the giant mountain. Along with the sound of the bell, there was a pleasant sound of zither. The Pang clan's divine welcoming bell, which was used to welcome important guests, suddenly rang. The bell rang a total of 9 times. Whoosh. Chapter 26-25. VIP. Just a moment ago, they wanted Su Fong to kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times in front of the mountain gate and enter through the side door for slaves and servants. Now, he had suddenly become a VIP? Unbelievable. Miss Pang, Pang Yin, and the other Pang clan cultivators looked at Su Fong in the erased space in disbelief. Even the goateed elder Pang Zhong's eyes were filled with astonishment. Although Pang Zhong felt that Su Fong was extraordinary, he did not expect that not only did Su Fong pass the test, but he could also make the divine welcoming bell ring for him. As for Ling Xingong, he was gnashing his teeth. The reverberating sound of the bell was like an incomparably resounding slap that fiercely slapped his face. His extraordinarily handsome face alternated between green and white. Young Master Yin and Miss Pang are both here. May I know where the VIP is from? The divine light that shot from the mountain peak paused on the mountain ridge, and a white-haired old man appeared. He immediately asked, "What's the matter?" Only the VIP of the Pang clan would be able to make the divine welcoming bell ring. They were qualified to be welcomed by the experts of the Pang clan. This white-haired elder from the Pang clan was even stronger than Pang Zhong. The fact that he personally came to welcome them showed that he valued them. Pang Yin snorted coldly and said, "What VIP? He's just a slave who has an extraordinary ability. It's like he cheated to make the divine welcoming bell ring." The expert from the Pang clan frowned and looked at Su Fong. When he realized that Su Fong was only at the true Dao realm, he was stunned. Then he asked Pang Zhong, "Is it really as young Master Yin said?" This, Pang Zhong was about to answer. Inside the erase space, Su Fong, who was about to enter the altar and leave the erase space, suddenly gave up and rushed toward the end of the single-plank bridge. It turned out that Su Fong had discovered that the fire erase space had an unexpected effect on cultivating the Yang transformation mysterious technique. Su Fong naturally would not miss such a good opportunity. There was still a long way to go before he reached the single-plank bridge. He could use this opportunity to cultivate. On the mountain ridge, everyone's divine light changed instantly. Ling Xingong was also shocked and stunned. Soon after, he gnashed his teeth and said, "Crazy person, you actually aren't satisfied with the 9 chimes of the welcoming divine bell. You even want to trigger 18 chimes of the divine bell. You are truly arrogant to the extreme." The Pang clan's welcoming divine bell had a total of 81 chimes, 9 chimes each time. Within the time limit, the further the distance traveled, the more the bell would ring. For the first 3 times, the Pang clan's expert in charge of receiving the guests, who was at the level of the white-haired old man, had only needed to step forward. If the echoes exceeded 27 times, then it would alarm the Grand Elder who was on duty in the clan. That was a peerless expert at the peak of the Downward Realm. 54 chimes, and the Patriarch had to personally welcome him. If it was 81 chimes, the entire clan would have to come out to welcome it. Even the Pang clan's Patriarch, who had been in seclusion for a long time, would have to come out to welcome it. Su Fong was only a true Dao cultivator. Passing the test and making the welcoming divine bell ring 9 times was already shocking enough. Yet, he still wanted to continue. If this wasn't arrogance, then what was? Pang Yin sneered. Is this brat thinking that the Grand Elder will personally welcome him into the Pang clan? Roars of laughter immediately rang out on the mountain ridge. Another hour passed. Clang, clang, clang. The welcoming divine bell rang again. Which expert has come to the Pang clan to make the welcoming divine bell ring twice in a row? It must be an expert. Let's go and take a look. Some of the Pang clan's cultivators in their dojos were alarmed and came to the mountain ridge. When they saw Su Fong in the formation space, many of the Pang clan's cultivators exclaimed in disbelief. Pang Yin, Miss Pang Pang, and the others were shocked. Their expressions were very different. Miss Pang Pang was naturally elated. Pang Yin stared at Su Fong. His deep eyes flashed with ruthlessness and greed. That brat's divine ability is so extraordinary. It allowed a lowly ant from a low-level universe to possess such incredible power. What right does an ant like him have to possess such extraordinary divine ability? Then, he sent a thought to Miss Pang Pang Yu. Pang Yu, how about I make a deal with you? Miss Pang Pang immediately became alert. What kind of deal does young master want to make? Transfer your slave to me, and I will do my best to facilitate your entry into the Dark Feather sect. What do you think? Enter the Dark Feather sect? Miss Pang Pang's heart palpitated. After hesitating for a moment, she replied, Su Fong is not my slave. I can't make the decision to hand him over to you. Pang Yin smiled domineeringly. Once he enters the Pang clan, how can we tolerate him? Miss Pang Pang glanced at Pang Zhong. She remembered Pang Zhong's speculation about Su Fong's identity and could not help but hesitate. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Su Fong walked faster and faster on the single plank bridge. By constantly using the Yang refinement mysterious technique to control and refine the surrounding flames, Su Fong not only became more skilled, but his mysterious Yang Dharma body also continued to improve. Unknowingly, another altar appeared in his line of sight. Clang, clang. Another 9 bell tolls came from the top of the mountain. The sound of the bell seemed to impact the souls of many Pang clan cultivators, and it shocked even Pang Zhong and the white-haired old man. My Pang clan is fortunate to welcome the arrival of a powerful expert. Please forgive us for not going out to meet you. A hearty laugh came from the top of the mountain. Then, a figure swept across the sky and appeared on the ridge in an instant. Swish! Swish! The eyes of all the Pang clan cultivators were focused on that person. It was a dignified old man. His aura was ethereal, and he wore a red robe. The flame patterns on the robe seemed to be burning, making this old man look extremely extraordinary. This old man was a peerless expert at the peak of the Dao realm. He was the great elder of the Pang clan who was on duty today. Unexpectedly, Su Fong had really alarmed the first elder. Only Dao ancestor Dongshuan's disciple would have the right to personally welcome a Dao Truth Realm cultivator as the Grand Elder of the Pang clan. However, this Dao True Realm cultivator came from a low-level world. Everyone looked at the first elder with a strange expression. The dignified old man frowned when he sensed that the Pang clan cultivators were looking at him strangely. What happened? The white-haired old man said, First elder, look. The dignified old man looked over and was immediately shocked and stunned. Miss Pang sent a thought to Pang Yin. Young Master Yin, even the first elder was alarmed by Su Fong. Do you still want to take him as your slave? Pang Yin snorted coldly. He looked at Su Fong with a burning gaze. It seemed that he was still unwilling to give up. Within the formation space, Su Fong stepped onto the altar and was teleported out by the formation. He appeared on the ridge. Su Fong was shocked when he saw so many people on the ridge. Moreover, there was an expert whose aura was even more ethereal than Pang Zhong's. He looked at Pang Zhong. Lord Pang Zhong. The first elder had already learned about Su Fong's background from Pang Zhong and guessed Su Fong's identity. He swept Su Fong with a divine light and said, "Pang Zhong, bring this genius to the guest palace." After that, the first elder and the white-haired old man left in embarrassment. Under the shocked gazes, Su Fong was brought by Pang Zhong to a dojo in the depths of the giant mountain. A Dao True Realm ant has caused such a big commotion the moment he came to the Pang clan. Interesting. Don't you know that the more arrogant you are, the faster you will die? Pang Yin looked at Su Fong's back with a sharp gaze. Ling Xingong was jealous and hateful. "Damned ant, how dare you step on my head and help his reputation? If I don't get rid of you, I will be in the Fire Luo Mystic and Qianshang Mystic in the future. How will I have the face to meet people if I use Fire Luo Mystic?" Su Fong was brought to the depths of the giant mountain by Pang Zhong. He could feel the majesty of the giant mountain, as well as the power of nature and the essence of the world. The essence of the mystic world outside the secret realm was constantly being poured into the Pang clan's secret realm. QL11 Su Fong was shocked. The Pang clan's secret realm had been built over countless years. The giant mountain he saw was not simple. It was constantly absorbing the essence of the world, which was then poured into countless corners of the dojo for the Pang clan's cultivators to cultivate. It was no wonder the Pang clan was so powerful and ranked among the top 10 divine cultivation clans of the Fire Luo mystic world. Under Pang Zhong's control, they climbed over a cliff and arrived at a flat valley. They landed on a square. In the valley, green trees provided shade, and the scenery was magnificent. Magnificent palaces were built along the mountain. They were the palaces specially used to entertain guests. Pang Zhong settled Su Fong in one of the palaces and summoned a few beautiful maids to serve him. A few days later, no more important figures from the Pang clan came. Su Fong felt that something was amiss. Ancestral Gragon's voice came from the heavenly Dao avatar. "Kid, you were so ostentatious when you entered the Pang clan. I'm afraid they are greedy for your divine ability." Su Fong was shocked. Does the Pang clan dare to steal my extreme Dao Black Yang technique? What do you think? Which divine cultivation clan in the mystic world isn't a vicious beast that eats people without spitting out their bones? If not, how could the Pang clan stand tall in the mystic world? If you don't have strength, you will be bullied and humiliated. If you show your strength, you will be coveted and robbed. It seems like the Zhoushuan divine realm is the same as the Pongsong universe. They all follow the same set of natural laws. Now, I can only wait and see. If the Pang clan really wants to make a move on me, I will have to waste a chance and rely on my master. Another 10 days passed. The arrival of the white-browed old man and Pang Zhong was beyond Su Fong's expectations. The two Dao masters were very polite to Su Fong, as if Su Fong was a disciple from some superpower. The white-browed old man tactfully suggested that Su Fong join the Pang clan. He also offered generous conditions that were 10 times better than what Pang Zhong had offered. Su Fong politely declined. He also hinted that he would go to the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion to look for his family after the matter with the Pang clan was settled. The Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion was the secret realm where the disciples of the Dongxian Daozu cultivated. At the same time, it was the holy land of the entire Eastern Profound Divine Realm. Chapter 26:26. The relative Su Fong spoke of an Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion was his grandfather's soul that Dong Xuanrong had captured. The white-haired elder and Pang Zhong of the Pang clan naturally didn't know about this and thought that Su Fong's relative was some important figure in Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion. Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion was a transcendent existence. It was the sacred ground of the entire Eastern Profound Divine Domain, where all the peerless geniuses and experts who had reached the peak of Dongxian gathered. No matter how strong the Pang clan's influence was, it was limited to Fire Net Mystic World. It was nothing in front of Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion. Even if Su Fong's relative wasn't some important figure in Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, the Pang clan couldn't help but be wary as long as they were related to Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion. The white-haired elder then proposed to Su Fong in a roundabout way, exchanging treasures for Su Fong's yang transformation art. Su Fong chuckled. My ability comes from a peerless expert. Even if I dare to exchange it with the Pang clan, I'm afraid it will bring great disaster to the Pang clan. These words were the truth. The extreme Dao Black Yang art came from Shi Xian's Daozu. How could it be passed down so easily? If the Pang clan really obtained this peerless ability, not only would it not bring any benefits to the Pang clan, it would also bring about the destruction of the clan. The white-haired elder and Pang Zhong were shocked beyond words. They were even more certain that Su Fong's origin wasn't simple. At the same time, they completely abandoned the idea of snatching Su Fong's yang transformation art. Young Master Su Fong, stay with the Pang clan for now. If you have any needs, just look for Pang Zhong. When the battle with the Xian clan begins, we will still have to trouble you. These resources are a small token of appreciation from the Pang clan. Young Master Su Fong, please accept these. The white-haired elder took out a storage ring and handed it to Su Fong before bidding farewell with Pang Zhong. The ancestral Gragon's voice came from the heavenly way avatar's body. Su Fong, you're really cunning. You actually used the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion to intimidate others. If the Pang clan knew that you had nothing to do with the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion and had a grudge with the disciples of the Dongxian Daozu, they would probably skin you alive. Su Fong said, there's nothing we can do about it. We can only use the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion to scare the Pang clan. However, this is not a long-term solution. Sooner or later, the Pang clan will discover some clues. Once the duel with the Xian clan is over, we will obtain some benefits from the Pang clan and quickly leave Fire Net Profound World. After inspecting the storage ring the white-haired old man had given him, he found that there were hundreds of intermediate-level Dan pills and many other resources. While it could not compare to the Dan pills that Shi Xian Daozu had given him, it was still a large sum. Next, Su Fong planned to settle down for a while before heading to the Fire Net Profound World to find a place to transcend his tribulation. After the white-haired elder and Pang Zhong left Su Fong's palace, they immediately went to the peak of the giant mountain. They entered the depths of a palace. An old voice came from the depths of the vast formation. Have you found out about the cultivator's background? Reporting to Old Forefather, the cultivator named Su Fong's background is indeed not simple. The white-haired old man respectfully recounted what had happened. There was a moment of silence in the depths of the formation before the old voice spoke again. Since he is related to the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, why would this person appear in the bound of universe and be captured as a slave by a group of mercenaries? However, the divine ability this person has mastered is not something that an ordinary cultivator from a low-level universe can possess. Besides, the cultivator had once performed the supreme divine ability of destiny from the Destiny platform, the Tianji Life shrinking art. Dongxian also has geniuses who cultivate it. This person's background is indeed strange. The divine ability that the cultivator has mastered is of vital importance to our tribe. It even surpasses the divine ability of our tribe. It will be a pity if we miss this opportunity. Let's first stabilize this person. When we fight with the Xian clan, let them test this person's background. Our tribe only needs to wait for the right opportunity to act. Before we find out the true background of this person, we must try our best to rope him in. Let you interact with this cultivator more. If we can confirm that this person is related to the Eastern Profound Heaven Pavilion, it is not impossible for you to become his Dao companion. The white-haired elder and Pang Zhong bowed towards the depths of the palace before they left. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Su Fong walked out of the palace and prepared to go to the Pang clan's trading place to purchase some high-level divine sources to cultivate his Dharma body. After that, He would temporarily leave the Pang clan to find a place to transcend his tribulation. Just as he walked out of the palace, Miss Pang flew over. What surprised Su Fong was that Miss Pang had changed from her usual arrogant demeanor. Her slightly powdered face was like a spring breeze. "Young Master Su Fong, where are you going?" Miss Pang asked with a smile. She naturally moved closer to Su Fong. A gust of fragrant wind blew over. Su Fong's heart thumped. He subconsciously distanced himself from Miss Pang. Su Fong happened to be looking for a member of the Pang clan to show him the way. He did not hide his intention and told Miss Pang that he wanted to purchase divine sources. "Fortunately, young Master Su Fong has met me. The Pang clan's treasure exchange palace does indeed have high-level treasures that contain divine sources. Only the upper echelons of the clan are qualified to buy them. The other members of the lower echelons, especially those who do not share the same surname, are unable to buy them. Since young Master Su Fong is about to contribute to our tribe, I naturally have to help young Master Su Fong. Let me accompany young Master Su Fong to the treasure exchange palace." Miss Pang was very enthusiastic. Su Fong found it hard to adapt. It was as if they were two different people. Ancestral Gragon spoke from the heavenly Dao Dharma body in the Jiushuan Dao Palace. "Young Master Su Fong, the Pang clan is frightened by you. Since they failed to rob you, they are planning to seduce you. Why don't you beat them at their own game? You can also solve your physiological problem." "Hee hee. Old Loach, shut up." Su Fong immediately sealed the heavenly Dao Dharma body. He could no longer hear Ancestral Gragon's despicable voice. Miss Pang accompanied Su Fong and left the cliff where the palace was located. They flew towards the mountainside of the giant peak. Along the way, they met many cultivators of the Pang clan. When they saw Miss Pang, they all bowed and greeted her. When they saw Miss Pang being so intimate with an ordinary-looking Dao True Realm cultivator, they were all shocked. As they flew over the sky above the Dao palaces, Su Fong witnessed the strength of the Pang clan. He was secretly shocked. When they arrived at the mountainside, they landed on a huge plaza. On the plaza, there were many cultivators setting up stalls to sell items. There were pills, talismans, etc. There were also Xian Bao, spiritual items, and precious stones. It was a dazzling lineup. However, the items sold at the stalls were all low-grade goods. Miss Pang did not even look at them. Su Fong, on the other hand, had his horizons broadened. He lingered in front of the stalls. Although Miss Pang was very impatient, she remembered the orders from the clan. She could only be patient and follow Su Fong like an attendant. Miss Pang had high status. She was usually aloof and did not put any men in her eyes. At this moment, she was being so humble in front of a Dao True Realm cultivator. This made the cultivators of the Pang clan who were trading and setting up stairs in the plaza. "Who is that man? He actually made our Miss Pang accompany him personally? That man is the cultivator who made the divine welcoming bell ring 27 times a few days ago. The Grand Elder came to welcome him personally. I heard that the clan intends to let Miss Pang marry this man. It seems that the rumors are true. Miss Pang is the princess of our Pang clan. That brat is only a Dao True Realm cultivator. I also heard that he came from a low-level universe. How can such an ant be worthy of Miss Pang? Looking at Miss Pang, I guess it's going to happen soon. Sigh, a fresh flower is going to be stuck in cow dung." Su Fong heard the gossips of the crowd clearly. They didn't try to avoid anything. Fresh flower? Cow dung? Su Fong laughed in his heart. Even if he was really cow dung, Miss Pang was definitely not a fresh flower. She was a man-eating flower demon. A brawny man more than 3 meters tall strode towards Su Fong and stood in front of Su Fong. A terrifying pressure like a mountain pressed down on Su Fong. "Brat, I, Sang Yin, challenge you." Su Fong was surprised. "Why?" Sang Yin roared like a fierce beast. "Miss Pang is a noble existence. Who are you to want me Miss Pang's companion?" "I, Sang Yin, will be the first to disagree." Su Fong laughed. Now he understood. It turned out that this cultivator of the Pang clan was an admirer of Miss Pang. But when did he want to marry Miss Pang? Su Fong tilted his head and looked at Sang Yin. "Who do you think you are? So what if you don't agree?" Sang Yin shouted, "I challenge you." If you're a man, fight me. Do you think I'm an idiot who would accept a challenge from a random idiot? Su Fong sneered disdainfully. Tung! Sang Yin's body suddenly burst into flames. His entire body was like a burning rock, and he was about to pounce on Su Fong. Although this person's cultivation was only at the Tao true realm, he had an extraordinary physical body. He also had the dual attributes of fire and earth. He was definitely an expert among the low-level cultivators of the Pang clan. Sang Yin, are you not afraid of the clan's strict laws for rudely offending a guest? Miss Pang shouted coldly. Sang Yin had no choice but to stop. He shouted at Su Fong, Brat, don't hide behind a woman like a coward, relying on a woman to protect you. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. Divine light swirled around Sang Yan's body. If you take out a treasure that's worth my time, I might accept your challenge. Sang Yin waved his hand and took out a fist-sized, dark stone. He sneered, This Kuan essence stone is a precious stone that I obtained after a narrow escape. As long as you accept my challenge, this Kuan essence stone is yours. Kuan essence stone? Never heard of it. As Su Fong was hesitating, the stone spirit suddenly transmitted a message from the 9 mysterious Tao Palace. Master, this Kuan essence stone contains pure earth attribute essence. It is a supreme treasure that I need to increase my strength. If I fuse with this Kuan essence stone, even if I can't reach the metamorphosis state, I won't be far from it. He didn't expect the Kuan essence stone to be so useful to the stone spirit. Since this was the case, Su Fong naturally wouldn't miss it. I accept your challenge. Su Fong nodded at Sang Yin. Miss Pang raised her eyebrows, but didn't say anything to stop him. Brat, I'm going to blow your head off. Chapter 26-27. Su Fong, be careful. Sang Yin has cultivated the fire rock body. His body is extremely strong. Don't fight him head on. Miss Pang warned loudly. The surrounding Pang clan members were all shocked. Why was Miss Pang helping an outsider? Boom. Su Fong strode towards Sang Yin. His Xianyang battle body merged with his physical body as he used the gigantism of the Vajra body. His body grew crazily, and then he punched towards Sang Yin with a terrifying destructive aura. This kid is dead for sure. How dare he fight Sang Yin head-on? He wants to show off in front of Miss Pang. Sang Yin won't have a good time either. If he hurts that kid, Miss Pang won't let him go. The Pang clan cultivators were already imagining Su Fong's body being destroyed by Sang Yin's punch. Little did they know, their fists collided, and a gust of wind swept out. Sang Yin's rock-like fist shattered under the power of Su Fongda's god-slaying fist. Su Fong's punch did not diminish. It landed on Sang Yin's chest and sent him flying. QL-11 Sang Yin's rock-like body had a deep dent in his chest. Cracks appeared on his body, and he was almost destroyed. He fell to the ground and fainted. Su Fong waved his hand and sucked the floating Kuan essence stone into the Jiushuan Tao Palace. He was overjoyed. He had accidentally obtained a Kuan essence stone that could greatly increase the strength of the stone spirit. How could he not be overjoyed? Su Fong's punch almost destroyed Sang Yin, and it shocked everyone. The huge square was dead silent. Miss Pang was also shocked. She had seen the strength of Su Fong's body, but she did not expect it to be this strong. It was unbelievable. Su Fong's divine light swept across the Pang clan cultivators. He shouted domineeringly, Who else wants to challenge me? As long as you are like that blockhead, take out treasures that can tempt me within the Tao True realm, and I will accept them all. Blockhead? That Sang Yin had taken the initiative to offer up a treasure, but in the end, it had almost been destroyed. He was indeed a big fool. It was good to be foolish. Su Fong's words were filled with incomparable arrogance. It immediately infuriated the crowd, and they angrily shouted at Su Fong. Miss Pang frowned as well. She snorted coldly in her heart. A lowly slave dares to be so arrogant in my Pang clan. If it weren't for the ancestors' decree, how could you be so arrogant? From Su Fong's Jiushuan Divine Palace's Heavenly Way avatar, you said, Su Fong, you're not an arrogant person. Why are you acting so differently today? Su Fong replied, Anyway, I won't be staying in the Pang clan for long. Wouldn't it be a pity if I don't take advantage of the fact that the Pang clan is wary of me and take advantage of the situation. Besides, the more arrogant I acted, the more confident the Pang clan would be. They wouldn't dare to attack me, which would make me safer. It's killing two birds with one stone. Why not? You chuckled. I heard that you used to be called Su Huang back in the Pansan universe. I didn't expect you to still be so stubborn in the Jioshuan divine realm. Who asked me to be poor now? The square was silent for a moment. Then, a provocative and arrogant voice rang out. The Pang clan is being suppressed by a lowly slave from a low-level universe. Where is the Pang clan's dignity? Lingxing Ong slowly flew over and hovered in the air above the square. He looked down at the Su Fong and the Pang clan cultivators with disdain in his eyes. He had lost so much face a few days ago and almost lost his life. Yet, he didn't leave and stayed in the Pang clan. Swoosh! Ling Xingong waved his hand and a Xianguang appeared. Xianguang floated inside the Xianguang. There were gems, spiritual items, and various elixirs. They emitted an astonishing amount of spiritual energy and the essence of the world. All the Pang clan cultivators in the square were moved. They looked at the treasures in front of Ling Xingong with sparkling eyes. Su Fong's eyes were also shining. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva. As expected of a young master from the divine realm, he took out so many treasures at once. What a rich man. Ling Xingong said domineeringly. Whoever goes up to challenge Su Fong will get the treasures. If anyone wins, they can choose any one of these treasures. Wow! The square was in an uproar. The Pang clan cultivators looked at Su Fong as if he was a peerless treasure. They were all fighting to challenge Su Fong. I didn't expect Ling Xingong to come here just to give me treasures. What a good man. Su Fong was overjoyed. Although he had just ascended to the true Tao realm and hadn't even passed the heavenly tribulation, he had 3 avatars and a powerful body. He also had the true Yang evil-slaying sword, a peerless Xianguang. He could even kill a Tao Lord. Who in the true Tao realm could be his match? What else could Ling Xingong be doing other than giving him treasures? However, Ling Xingong did not think so. He looked down at Su Fong with disdain and coldly said, "Lowly ant, this young master has plenty of treasures. Today, I will use my treasures to crush you to death. I know you are poor. If you want treasures, you could trade with your life." Whoosh! Ling Xingong took out a flying sword from the Xianguang and let it float above Su Fong's head. He said loudly, "Su Fong, if you accept my challenge, this mid-grade flying sword will be yours. Do you dare to accept it?" Mid-grade flying sword? Su Fong sneered. Mid-grade flying swords are nothing in my eyes. That pair of Xianguang boots in your treasure is not bad. If you take out this one, I will have to think about it. Flame-stepping boots? As you wish. Ling Xingong rolled the Xianguang boots above Su Fong's head. He didn't take back the flying sword. Instead, he said to the Pang clan cultivators, "This mid-grade flying sword will belong to whoever succeeds in the challenge. If Su Fong is seriously injured, I will take out 100 mid-grade pills. If you can kill him, I will take out a profound mana." As soon as he said that, the square was filled with exclamations like a tide. It wasn't the mid-grade flying sword that caused the cultivators to exclaim. It was the profound mana that Ling Xingong mentioned. Su Fong more or less knew about mana. Mana was also divided into 4 grades: heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. Spiritual items like the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud contained yellow, supreme grade mana. As for Su Fong's cauldron-like world fragment, it was profound mana. Earth-grade celestial sources were supreme treasures for cultivators to cultivate their Dharma bodies and Tao palaces. They cannot be found in the mystic world at all. Only in the vast chaos and after countless years of precipitation could a celestial source of such quality be born. Even the Pang clan's patriarch had a chance to obtain an earth-grade mana if he was lucky, let alone a Tao True Realm cultivator. As for heaven-grade mana, it only existed in legends. If a Tao True Realm cultivator wanted to obtain a mana, they could only look for spiritual items and treasures. Even someone like Miss Pang was scrambling for the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud, let alone other cultivators. Mana was an essential item for cultivators to cultivate Dharma bodies and Tao palaces and improve their cultivation. For example, if a Tao Lord wanted to surpass the peak of the Tao Lord realm, he would have to fuse with a profound mana. How could everyone not be shocked when Ling Xing Ong took out a profound mana? Miss Pang was also shocked and exclaimed, "Ling Xing Ong, you're crazy. You're taking out a profound mana just to kill Su Fong." Ling Xing Ong said in a loud voice, "I'm infatuated with Sister Yu. For Sister Yu, I'm even willing to give up my life. Why would I care about a profound mana?" Miss Pang recalled that her clan had asked her to investigate Su Fong's background. Since Ling Xing Ong was taking the lead this time, she naturally wouldn't stop him. Thus, she didn't say anything and tacitly agreed. The more Su Fong looked at Ling Xing Ong, the more he liked him. This young master Ling was a young master who gave out treasures. How could Su Fong not like him? "Su Fong, I challenge you." A cultivator from the Pang clan stepped on a trail of flames and charged towards Su Fong in a flash. The Flaming Steps treasure boots belonged to Su Fong. Su Fong revealed a domineering smile and ignored the Pang clan cultivator. He released a divine aura from his glabella and absorbed the Flaming Steps treasure boots floating above his head into the Jushuan Dao Palace. "You're courting death. I'll kill this ant. Young Master Ling, don't go back on your word." Seeing Su Fong's arrogance, the Pang clan cultivator merged his physical body with his Dharma body. He laughed maniacally and shot out flaming sword rays towards Su Fong. It was difficult for Tao True Realm cultivators to release their Dharma bodies directly. However, they could merge their Dharma bodies with their physical bodies and unleash shocking power. Do you think it's that easy to kill Su Fong? A divine aura that controlled flames erupted from Su Fong's body. The flaming sword rays were instantly shattered by the divine aura and dissipated into flames. Su Fong's figure flashed and charged toward the Pang clan cultivator in an instant. The Pang clan cultivator was shocked to find that his Dharma body couldn't unleash its power. His Dharma body and physical body were about to burn and be refined. Poof! Su Fong waved his hand and sent the Pang clan cultivator flying. Half of his face caved in, and his head and Xian Tian Dao Palace were almost shattered. Su Fong was overjoyed to have obtained a treasure. He looked at Ling Xingong and asked, "Young Master Ling, what other treasures do you have? Take them out and see if they can satisfy me. Let's see how long you can be smug for." Ling Xingong waved his hand and took out 100 mid-grade pills. "As long as you dare to continue fighting, these pills are all yours." Su Fong shook his head and said, "One by one, that's too slow. Why don't you take out 3 treasures at once, and I'll fight 3 people at once." The square was in an uproar again. Arrogant. He was too arrogant. "You're courting death. Don't blame me." Ling Xingong sneered and took out a gem that looked like it was condensed from blood and a spiritual item shaped like a lingji. Su Fong released his sensing ability and swept it over the 2 treasures. The gem condensed from blood was an unknown treasure. It contained an astonishing amount of life essence and contained faint traces of the great Tao's profundities. The lingji was a medicinal ingredient. Although it couldn't compare to a spiritual item like the Flaming Dream Illusory Cloud, it was still extraordinary. It was comparable to 100 mid-grade pills. Chapter 26-28. How could it be so extraordinary? Su Fong was both surprised and delighted. He was thinking of ways to elevate his family, friends, and subordinates to the level of gods in the Jiushuan God domain. However, to transcend the shackles of a low-level universe and reach the Tao True Realm, it was not something that could be solved by ordinary spiritual items and pills. He did not expect that a gem could help him reach the Tao True Realm. Su Fong had to get it no matter what. "The 3 of you get up here." Su Fong shouted coldly as his divine light wrapped around the 3 Tao True Realm cultivators of the Pang clan. Miss Pang noticed that the 3 Pang clan cultivators selected by Su Fong were all Tao True Realm cultivators with fire elemental avatars. She immediately understood Su Fong's intention. Su Fong had an extraordinary ability to control and refine flames. He could restrain these cultivators with fire elemental avatars. Wouldn't they be courting death if they went up? This lowly slave is really cunning. Miss Pang looked at Su Fong with disdain. Swoosh, swoosh. The three Pang clan cultivators flew out of the crowd excitedly. In their opinion, Su Fong came from a low-level universe. No matter how heaven-defying he was only a Dao True Realm cultivator. One of them could not defeat him, but three of them could. As long as they could defeat Su Fong, it meant that they would get a mid-grade Xianbao. If they could seriously injure or even kill him. The three Pang clan cultivators were excited when they thought of the treasure Ling Xingong had promised them. Miss Pang suddenly said, "The three of you are no match for Su Fong. Get down." The three of them were startled. Immediately, the three of them were furious. The other Pang clan cultivators also glared at them. They did not know what Miss Pang had been fed by that cultivator with a different surname. Why would she help him so unscrupulously? One of them said angrily, "Miss Pang, don't forget your identity. Even if you're Dao companions with him, you're still a member of the Pang clan. How can you protect someone with a different surname?" A layer of frost appeared on Miss Pang's face. "I didn't want to embarrass you, but you treated my good intentions as ill intent. If that's the case, then do as you please. Don't blame me for not reminding you when the time comes. We appreciate eldest Mrs. Kindness." The three Pang clan cultivators laughed and merged their Dharma bodies with their physical bodies. Then, they cast their spells and activated their treasures, charging towards Su Fong aggressively. Su Fong once again used the Yang refinement transformation technique. Under the cover of his divine aura, the three Pang clan cultivators' avatars were suppressed. Their physical bodies, avatars, and even the Xin Tian Dao palace began to burn. Boom! Boom! While the three of them were still struggling, Su Fong struck one of them with a punch, sending all three of them flying. They landed heavily on the square and struggled for a long time, unable to stand up again. The entire process took less than 10 breaths' time. Many cultivators of the Pang clan were shocked. They finally understood that Miss Pang had stopped the three of them, not because she wanted to protect Su Fong, but because she didn't want them to lose face. QL11, everyone looked at Su Fong with eyes full of respect. Only now did they realize that Su Fong's ability to make the divine welcoming bell ring wasn't cheating, but true strength. "Thank you, young Masterling, for your treasures." Su Fong happily absorbed the pills, the blood-condensed gem, and a Ganoderma into the Jiushuan Dao Palace. This was great. Now, he would soon have the strength of a Dao True Realm cultivator. With so many pills, he wouldn't have to worry about a lack of cultivation resources in the short term. The mid-grade pills from the Pang clan and Ling Xingong were far inferior to the ancient pills from the Shixian Daozu. However, Ancestral Graygon and Shu Wanjin could use them. After changing all of these pills to low-grade pills, they would be diluted and refined. The experts inside the Heavenly Dao avatar could consume them and rapidly increase their strength, slowly breaking free from the shackles of the Pansong universe. Having received such a huge benefit, Su Fong's gratitude towards Ling Xingong was naturally sincere. However, Ling Xingong didn't show any mercy. He gnashed his teeth, and his handsome face turned ashen. Only now did he realize that ordinary Dao True Realm cultivators were no match for Su Fong. They were just giving away their treasures for free. Ling Xingong shouted, "Su Fong, I'll fight you." "Fight you?" Su Fong glanced at Ling Xingong and mocked. "You're a Dao Lord, and I've just reached the Dao True Realm. Do you think I'm an idiot? Or are you an idiot yourself?" Ling Xingong flew into a rage and shouted at the Pang clan cultivators, "A bunch of idiots! Is the Pang clan full of useless people like you?" The Pang clan cultivators were furious and humiliated, but they were completely shocked by Su Fong's strength. They didn't have the courage to challenge Su Fong. They may be idiots, but they don't represent the Pang clan. "Young Master Ling Xingong, please take back your words immediately." A stiff and cold voice came from outside the square. Everyone looked over and saw a young cultivator in his early 20s flying slowly towards the square. The young cultivator was wearing a simple green robe. He was bald and had a cold expression. Although he was only at the peak of the upper Dao true realm, he felt more terrifying than a Dao lord. Su Fang's expression turned solemn. He's an expert. The Pang clan is indeed worthy of being one of the top 10 divine cultivation clans in the Fire Luo mystic world. There are hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the clan. Pang Xianfu. He actually attracted Pang Xianfu here. The Pang clan cultivators in the square discussed animatedly. They looked at the bald cultivator with fear in their eyes. Ling Xingang's eyes were filled with fear. He cupped his fists at the bald cultivator and said, "I made a mistake just now. Please forgive me, Brother Pang." The arrogant Ling Xingang was actually so afraid of the bald cultivator. It was obvious that this person was not an ordinary person. Miss Pang frowned slightly and sent a voice transmission to Su Fang. "Su Fang, this person is the strongest Dao True Realm disciple in our clan. You'd better not fight with him." Su Fang could hear the fear in Miss Pang's voice. He asked in confusion why. "His name is Pang Xianfu. He was originally a disciple of a side branch of our clan. Although his talent is ordinary, he's a ruthless and powerful person. He used to be a bandit. Because of his wanton plundering and his extremely cruel methods, he was hunted down by other divine cultivation clans. Later, he escaped from a Fire Luo mystic world and spent all his wealth to ask the Chamber of Commerce for help. He escaped to a low-level universe. It's not an ordinary low-level universe. It's a Buddhist universe. Pang Xianfu wantonly massacred in the Buddhist universe and seized Buddhist cultivation techniques. He also merged the most common fire-type cultivation techniques and divine abilities of our clan with Buddhist cultivation techniques. He cultivated a powerful divine ability that is comparable to the top divine ability of our clan. After returning to the Pang clan, he was immediately promoted to a core disciple. Pang Xianfu could have become a Dao Lord long ago, but he stayed at the peak of the Dao True Realm in order to accumulate enough strength. His current strength is not weaker than some of the special disciples of our clan. This time, if it weren't for Grand Uncle Pang Zhong's favor, Pang Xianfu would be the only Dao True Realm cultivator to represent our clan in the battle against the Xian clan. Miss Pang introduced Pang Xianfu. She was also afraid of him. "You fight with me." Pang Xianfu landed on the square, looked at Su Fang, and said indifferently, "Not interested." Su Fang refused without hesitation. Flames lit up in Pang Xianfu's eyes like two burning suns. It made Su Fang feel like he was in a terrifying world of fire. Jiuxuan's Dao Palace and Dao Heart began to burn. Dao True Realm cultivators couldn't use mind attacks, but Pang Xianfu was able to attack Su Fang's Dao Heart and Dao Heart with his divine will and almost shook the Jiuxuan's Dao Palace. He was indeed the top Dao True Realm cultivator of the Pang clan. Su Fang staggered and took a step back to get rid of Pang Xianfu's divine will attack. Pang Xianfu sneered disdainfully. "With such strength, you want to represent our Pang clan in the battle against the Xian clan? Either fight with me or kneel down and kowtow, then get out of the Pang clan." Miss Pang Xianfu shouted. "Pang Xianfu, Su Fang represents our clan. It's a decision made by the higher-ups of our clan. How dare you question it?" Pang Xianfu sneered. "I don't dare to question the decision of the higher-ups. But I don't think the higher-ups will stop me from sparring with him, right?" Su Fang said, "Why should I spar with you?" Pang Xianfu's eyes emitted cold, murderous intent. "You don't dare." Ling Xingang took the opportunity to fan the flames. "Su Fang, weren't you so arrogant just now? How come you become a coward now? If you agree to fight with Pang Xianfu, the profound divine source in my hand will be yours." Profound divine source? Su Fang's eyes lit up. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "If you take out 1,000 mid-grade elixirs, maybe I'll consider it." 1,000 mid-grade elixirs? Ling Xingang was shocked, but he agreed without hesitation. "Okay, but my divine source and elixirs will be the wager for your fight with Pang Xianfu." Although Ling Xingang was rich, 1,000 mid-grade elixirs was not a small number for him. But in his opinion, even if Su Fang was alive to get the elixirs, he would not be alive to enjoy them. Ling Xingang waved his hand, and rolled out a Xian Guang, floating above the square. Inside the Xian Guang, a storage ring and a ball of thunderfire were sealed. The thunderfire was extremely shocking. Although it was sealed, one could still feel the shocking power of thunder and fire in it. What was more shocking was that the thunderfire also contained the aura of the heavenly tribulation. Su Fong stared at the thunderfire. This is the profound divine source. Everyone's attention was focused on the thunderfire. Everyone's eyes were hale and hearty. Even Pang Xianfu's cold eyes were burning with a desire to possess. Ling Xing Ong said proudly, "This godly source of mine is a heavenly tribulation shattered by my ancestor when he was going through tribulation. It has been refined by my ancestor for 100,000 years. The amount of godly source it contains is only second to a world fragment." He looked at Su Fong and said, "Su Fong, you and Pang Xianfu fight. Whoever wins will have the divine source and elixirs." The Thunder Fire divine source is destined to belong to Su Fong. Chapter 26-29. Seeing Su Fong agree, Pang Xuanfu grinned coldly. "Kid, you're dead for sure. However, for the sake of Miss, I'll spare your life. I'll only destroy your Dao Palace and leave you with your body. A slave will always be a slave. For treasures, he's willing to give up his life." Ling Xingong looked at Su Fong as if he was looking at a dead man. Even a Dao lord like him was afraid of Pang Xuanfu's strength, let alone Su Fong, who was only a Dao True Realm cultivator. Su Fong did have the strength to fight a Dao lord, but he relied on his ability to restrain fire spells. Although Pang Xuanfu was a cultivator of the Pang clan, he didn't cultivate a fire elemental Dharma body. Su Fong had lost his greatest reliance. How could he defeat Pang Xuanfu? Miss Pang looked at Su Fong coldly and snorted in her heart. "You're courting death. You can't blame the Pang clan. Even if you have an extraordinary identity, it has nothing to do with the Pang clan. That cultivator with a different surname is dead for sure." "Nonsense. Pang Xuanfu has the strength of a special disciple. How can that cultivator with a different surname not be suppressed? That kid has won several rounds in a row. He really thinks that there's no one left in our clan. Let's show him the strength of our experts. Let's see how arrogant he can be." The cultivators of the Pang clan in the square also thought that Su Fong was dead for sure. They were all elated. In front of the huge palace beside the square, Pang Yin, the young master of the Pang clan, was watching from afar with a dozen young cultivators. Seeing that Su Fong agreed to fight Pang Xuanfu, Pang Yan's lips curled into a smile full of murderous intent. The reason why Pang Xuanfu challenged Su Fong was because of Pang Yin. Even now, Pang Yin still couldn't forget Su Fong's divine powers. What no one noticed was that in the sky above the square, there were illusory figures formed by thoughts floating in the air. They were the higher-ups of the Pang clan. At this time, they were all releasing their thoughts and paying attention to Su Fong and Pang Xuanfu. Su Fong's background is extraordinary. If Pang Xianfu kills him, won't it bring disaster to the Pang clan? It doesn't matter. I was just about to use Pang Xuanfu to force out this person's background. The battle with the Xian clan is related to the legendary treasure of the Dao Saint. Su Fong is going to represent our clan in the battle of the Dao True Realm cultivators. This is a very important matter. We can use Pang Xianfu to test his strength. If this person really has an extraordinary background, the guardians around him will definitely make a move, and even Pang Xuanfu won't be able to kill him. If Pang Zhong's previous conjecture is wrong, then his death is nothing. If that's really the case, don't kill him. His fire-controlling divine ability is very useful to our clan. Under the watchful eyes of many cultivators of the Pang clan, Pang Xuanfu made his move. Pang Xuanfu merged his Dharma body with his physical body, and a sacred and scorching aura spread out. His skin turned golden in an instant, and a layer of golden light appeared on his bald head, forming a halo. At this moment, Pang Xuanfu looked like a Buddhist almighty. He put his palms together and chanted a mysterious Buddhist mantra. Streams of Buddhist flames surged towards Su Fong. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Su Feng's Jiuquan Taoist palace buzzed, and 18 phantoms condensed from Buddhist flames appeared. They sat cross-legged in the Jiuquan Taoist palace and chanted a sacred Buddhist mantra. Su Feng's Jiuquan Taoist palace began to burn with astonishing Buddhist flames. It was going to burn his Jiuquan Taoist palace and his soul. He didn't expect Pang Xuanfu to be able to perform a thought attack, and it was so strange that it contained the power of Buddhism and flames. This was no longer an attack that a Tao True Realm cultivator could perform. It was even stronger than many ordinary Tao lords. Su Feng's head emitted a Buddhist light that was burning. It looked like his head was burning. Pang Xuanfu smiled coldly, looking unusually ferocious. He then separated his palms. Vairocana Buddha palm, suppress. A palm print that was 100 feet in size quickly condensed, burning with holy and raging flames. It was like a Buddha's light was burning furiously, causing the surrounding space to distort and emit bursts of explosive sounds, as if a Buddha was roaring furiously. In order to avoid being affected, many Pang clan cultivators in the square had already distanced themselves from the place where the two were fighting. However, Pang Xuanfu's palm print was far beyond the limit of a Tao True Realm cultivator's strength. Those cultivators were still affected. Under the sacred and raging pressure, all of them trembled. Some of the Tao True Realm cultivators with lower cultivation couldn't bear it and knelt on the ground. The number 1 Tao True Realm cultivator of the Pang clan is indeed extraordinary. This person's strength is comparable to an intermediate Tao lord. Su Feng was also shocked in his heart. He had no choice. The divine powers he had mastered were limited, so he had to use his trump card. From the boundary of the Jiuquan Tao Palace and the depths of the Tao Palace, mysterious Taoist runes of the life shrinking technique surged toward the 18 Buddha shadows. Qi. Under the power of destiny, any attacks based on primordial spirit, faith, and willpower were all shattered. The Buddha shadows were enveloped by the Taoist runes and began to burn layer by layer. I thought you had some tricks up your sleeve. I didn't expect you to be so weak. Pang Xuanfu sneered at Su Feng, and a huge palm print pressed down on Su Feng. Boom! As the palm print fell, meteors and flames fell. The flames fell on the square, creating a series of craters and setting off a shockwave that overturned the surrounding Pang clan cultivators. The entire square fell into a violent tremor. That kid is dead meat. Fighting with Pang Xuanfu is suicide. Pang Xuanfu used a thought attack, something that only Tao lords are capable of. His divine ability is so astonishing that even the special disciples of my race might not be able to fight him, to say nothing of that kid from a low-level universe. Su Feng seemed to have lost his will to resist after being attacked by Pang Xuanfu's mind attack. He stood there motionless, and it seemed that he was about to be smashed into meat paste by Pang Xuanfu's powerful attack. Suddenly, Su Feng opened his eyes. Streaks of dazzling golden light shot out from his skin and shot around his body. They quickly condensed into 9 divine suns and released an astonishing amount of divine suns that swept towards the palm print. It turned out that he had burned Pang Xuanfu's mind attack with the life shrinking technique, and then released the power of the primordial yang mirror with the Xian Yang Dharma body. The primordial yang mirror had completely merged with Su Feng's Xian Yang Dharma body and became a part of it. The power that erupted was far beyond that of the Pangang universe, and it contained the power of the 9 suns. Boom! The collision of the 2 great divine abilities caused a series of big explosions. Cracks appeared on the palm print under the 9 suns' divine suns, and it was melted by the 9 suns' divine suns and quickly shrunk to the size of 10 feet. Su Feng's divine suns also collapsed layer by layer, and the 9 divine suns continued to shatter and finally collapsed. Su Feng's body staggered, and cracks began to appear on his Xian Yang Dharma body. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Pang Xuanfu's divine ability was really amazing, and Su Feng could not compete with it even with the power of the primordial Yang mirror. You actually hid your strength. However, under my supreme divine ability, any divine ability will be crushed. QL11 Pang, Xuanfu sneered. With a thought, the remaining palm print continued to press towards Su Fong. You are indeed the #1 expert of the Pang clan, and your divine ability is also so extraordinary. It seems that I have to give it a try. True Yang Evil Slaying Sword. Su Fong activated the True Yang Evil Slaying Sword, and a golden light shot out from between his eyebrows and turned into a sword chi that was hundreds of feet long and swept out with a fierce and scorching aura. Chi. The sword chi shattered the palm print and rushed toward Pang Xuanfu. The sharp edge of the sword, chi, drew a deep gully in the square. Supreme Grade Xian Bao. He can actually activate the Supreme Grade Xian Bao. Pang Xuanfu's divine light changed instantly, and golden Buddha light burst out from his eyes and instantly condensed into a golden Buddha wheel in front of him. Boom! The sword chi of the True Yang Evil Slaying Sword slashed on the Buddha wheel and cut it in half. The aftermath of the collision sent Pang Xuanfu flying, and scratches appeared on his Dharma body. Su Fong exuded an amazing Xian Yang divine aura, and with the True Yang Evil Slaying Sword floating above his head, he looked like a majestic and invincible god of war. If you want to kill me, Su Fong, then you must be prepared to die. Su Fong was murderous, and once again activated the True Yang Evil Slaying Sword. Pang Xuanfu's eyes were full of horror and panic. No matter how powerful he was still a Tao True Realm cultivator, and it was difficult for him to resist the divine aura of the Supreme Grade Xian Bao. Whoosh! The True Yang Evil Slaying Sword erupted with sword chi again, and swept across the sky toward Pang Xuanfu. Suddenly, a divine light appeared on Pang Xuanfu's body in an instant, wrapped around him, and teleported him into the sky. The sword chi missed, and a crack appeared on the ground, and the hard stone bricks on the ground melted. Su Fong looked at the sky. It turned out that Pang Yin had personally saved Pang Xuanfu in time. Su Fong said in a cold and embarrassed voice, "Pang Yin, how dare you interfere in my business?" Pang Yin snorted, "Pang Xuanfu has lost this battle. Why do you have to kill him?" Su Fong sneered, "Kill him? Why didn't you do anything when he tried to kill me just now?" Pang Yin frowned and said in a majestic voice, "Don't forget, this is the Pang clan, and a cultivator with a different surname, like you can't be arrogant. You've won this battle, and you've also obtained young masterling's treasures, so don't push your luck." Su Fong absorbed the Thunderfire Divine Source and the True Yang Evil Slaying Sword into the Jiushuan Dao Palace, and looked at Ling Xing'an. "Young Masterling, I made you spend money again, so I won't thank you. Do you have any more treasures to take out?" "Lowly slave, I'll let you be arrogant this time." Ling Xing'an was so angry that he staggered. He waved his sleeves and left the square with anger. In the sky, this man is extraordinary. Not only is he powerful, but his divine powers and background are also extraordinary. He can at least guarantee a victory in the battle with the Xian clan. Tell Pang Yin and the other clansmen not to provoke this man again. Those who dare to disobey will be punished according to the clan rules. After the upper echelons of the Pang clan discussed for a while, the phantoms formed by their thoughts quickly disappeared. Young Master Su Fong is so powerful. I'm impressed. Miss Pang Yin walked towards Su Fong, and her tone became even more intimate. This woman changed her face faster than taking off her clothes. If Su Fong lost, she would probably step on Su Fong's head a few times without hesitation. Su Fong swallowed 2 mid-grade elixirs that were used to recover his Xian Yang, celestial body, and his life force, respectively, to replenish his energy just now. "Miss, didn't you want to accompany me to the Treasure Exchange Palace to buy the Divine Source? Let's go." Chapter 2630. Pang Xian stared at Su Fong's back in the air. His eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. Pang Yin said, "Pang Xianfu, are you dissatisfied?" "Of course not. Su Fong only relied on a powerful treasure. Otherwise, how could I lose to him?" Pang Xianfu snorted. He licked the blood at the corner of his mouth like a wounded beast licking its wounds. A defeat is a defeat. I, Pang Xianfu, have experienced life and death. Why would I be afraid of a defeat? Sooner or later, I will step on Su Fang's head to wash away this defeat. I will use his head to sharpen my Tao heart. That's right. With such a Tao heart, you will become a peerless master of our clan sooner or later. If you want to seek revenge on Su Fang, you can find me at any time. I will arrange it for you. Thank you, young Master Yin. Pang Yin took out some pills for Pang Xianfu to heal. Suddenly, a thought appeared out of thin air and turned into a flaming figure. Although the face could not be seen clearly, the aura of the figure made Pang Yin and Pang Xianfu's souls tremble. The two hurriedly bowed. Clan leader, the clan has decided that Su Fang will represent our clan in the battle against the Xian clan. From today onwards, Su Fang has the status of a special disciple in our clan. You're not allowed to do anything against Su Fang. Otherwise, you will be punished according to the clan rules. The flaming figure let out a majestic voice and then slowly dissipated. Yes, although Pang Yin and Pang Xianfu were dissatisfied, they did not dare to say a word. Looks like we can only let that lowly slave live for a few more days. Pang Yin was unwilling. After the battle, just now, Su Fang had already been recognized by the higher-ups of the Pang clan and was given the status of a special disciple. Even though Pang Yin was the young master, how could he dare to go against the higher-ups' decision? Su Fang and Miss Pang walked into the treasure exchange palace. A divine light suddenly broke through the air and appeared in front of Miss Pang. Miss Pang took out a flame-shaped token and a jade slip from the divine light. She infused her magic power into the jade slip, and the divine light changed slightly. Then he smiled at Su Fang and said, "Congratulations, young Master Su Fang. The higher-ups of the clan have made a decision. From today onwards, your status in the Pang clan is equivalent to that of a special disciple. This token will be your identity token." Special disciple? Su Fang caught the token and couldn't help but feel surprised. Our clan has more than 1,000,000 young cultivators, but we only have 15 special disciples. You've just entered the Pang clan, but you've already received such treatment. It's clear that the clan's upper echelons value you highly. Congratulations, young Master Su Fang. Thank you. Su Fang nodded and sucked the token into the Jiushuan Taoist Palace. He was going to leave the Pang clan sooner or later, so this special disciple status was dispensable. However, with the identity of a special disciple, it would definitely be a lot more convenient, and it would also bring about a lot of corresponding benefits. Miss Pang led Su Fang to the depths of the palace. A steward of the exchange palace brought the two of them to a room used to entertain the upper echelons. Su Fang originally wanted to buy some spiritual items that contained the abyss. This time he had obtained a Thunderfire divine source, and it was a black-gray divine source. It was just right for him to use it to cultivate his black yang Dharma body. The heavenly Doubt Dharma body had the world fragment, so it naturally wouldn't need to search for other divine sources. Su Fang's primordial soul Dharma body was very special. It was very difficult to find a divine source to cultivate his primordial soul Dharma body, so he could only rely on luck. As such, Su Fang didn't need a divine source for his own cultivation anymore. However, Su Fang naturally wanted to help Xu Wanjin obtain a high-grade divine source, since Xu Wanjin also needed to undergo tribulation to cultivate her Dharma body. In addition, Su Fang also wanted to find a few powerful divine powers, but the ones he could use now were too few. It would be best if he could find a spiritual item that could help Goddess Luo's pregnant heavenly Tao core to succeed as soon as possible. Su Fang asked the steward of the exchange palace. A divine source of the extreme Yin attribute. Upon hearing that Su Fang wanted to buy a divine source of the extreme Yin attribute, not only the steward of the exchange palace, but even Miss Pang was shocked and stunned. Su Fang's Dharma body was obviously of the extreme Yang attribute. Moreover, he already had a Thunderfire divine source that would make even Tao masters jealous. It was really strange that he wanted to buy a divine source of the extreme Yin attribute. The steward said, "I'm afraid young master Su Fang will be disappointed. Our Pang clan mainly cultivates fire divine powers, and there are very few cultivators who cultivate Dharma bodies of the extreme attribute. Therefore, it is difficult to find a divine source of this attribute in the exchange palace. Su Fangdao was disappointed. The steward continued, "In another half a month, there will be an auction organized by the Chamber of Commerce in the exchange palace. After the auction, the upper echelons of the clan and special disciples will have a private trade fair. Perhaps young Master Su Fang will be able to obtain something." "I hope so." Su Fang didn't have much hope. He could only wait until after the auction and then go to the Chamber of Commerce in the Fire Luo mystic world to look for it. After all, he had to go out and find a place to transcend the tribulation. Miss Pang asked the exchange palace to arrange a place for Su Fang to stay and cultivate. Su Fang also took advantage of this time to consume pills to recover the energy he had expended in the battle with Pang Xianfu. Su Fang's current status was that of a special disciple. In the exchange palace, he was warmly received and arranged to stay in the Pang clan's room. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. The exchange palace's auction was held as scheduled. Tens of thousands of Pang clan cultivators gathered in the main auction hall of the exchange palace. Those who could participate in the auction were at least core disciples and clansmen with status. Many of the upper echelons of the Pang clan were present, and more than a dozen special disciples were present. Su Fang had the status of a special disciple and was specially arranged to stay in a private room. Miss Pang and Pang Zhong personally accompanied him. The exchange palace's auction was not only attended by the Pang clan, but also by the Chamber of Commerce. Therefore, many good things appeared every time, which attracted so many Pang clan cultivators. Some of the treasures in the auction opened Su Fangda's eyes. He was like a country bumpkin who suddenly saw rare treasures. Some of the treasures tempted Su Fang. He had quite a lot of pills. Just the mid-grade pills he had obtained from Ling Xingang numbered more than 1,000. Coupled with the 1,000 ancient pills from Shixian Daozu, he was very rich. Some of the Pang clan's Dao lords would find it difficult to take out so many pills at once. However, there were so many experts inside his heavenly path Dharma body that needed to improve their strength. Su Fang could not use all of the pills for himself. When he saw the good treasures in the auction, he could only look on enviously. If the treasures were not especially important, Su Fang would definitely not make a move. Scarlet Flame Robe. On the auction stage, a Xian Bao caught Su Fang's attention. It was a mid-grade Xian Bao. It was not used for attack. Instead, it was used for cultivation and defense. Not only did it have the defensive ability of an ordinary divine robe, but when worn, it could also absorb the power of fire at any time. It could increase one's cultivation speed by nearly 3 times. This is a good treasure. It suits me just right. Moreover, the price is not too expensive. The starting bid is only 300 low-grade pills. Su Fang's heart thumped. Thus, Su Fang made his first bid in the auction. 50 mid-grade pills. 50 middle-grade pills were equivalent to 500 low-grade pills. To most Dao lords, this was a sizable expenditure. Moreover, since Su Fang had spoken from the private room, his status was at least that of a special disciple. He was a big shot in the Pang clan, so the cultivators below naturally had to give him face. At first, only a few people bid against him, but when the price rose to 200 mid-grade pills, no one else bid against him. Just as the auctioneer was about to announce the owner of the Scarlet Flame Robe, Ling Xingang's domineering voice suddenly came from the private room next to Su Fang's. 300 mid-grade pills. Su Fang raised his eyebrows and made a new bid. 350 mid-grade pills. Ling Xingang said domineeringly, "A slave will always be a slave. You are so stingy. 500 mid-grade pills. I would rather buy this Scarlet Flame robe than let it fall into the hands of a lowly slave like you." Su Fang gritted his teeth. 550. Ling Xingang's voice sounded again. 800 mid-grade pills. This price had exceeded Su Fang's bottom line. He had to reluctantly part with this treasure. Ling Xingang said domineeringly, "Lowly ant, I won't let you get a single strand of hair today. I don't have anything else but money." The crowd below discussed animatedly. As expected of a Qian, the young master of the Ling clan in the S-sealed world was so willful when he was rich. Su Fong made a bid for the next 3 treasures. Ling Xingong did not hesitate to bid to suppress Su Fong. 500 mid-grade pills. When a mid-grade flying sword was taken out for auction, Su Fong made a bid again. Ling Xingong did not give up. 600, 650, 800. Su Fong seemed to be determined to get this flying sword. He kept increasing the price while gritting his teeth. Ling Xingong was aggressive and did not back down. After a few bids, Su Fong suddenly raised the price by a lot. 1,500 mid-grade pills. Ling Xingong said without hesitation, 2,000. The crowd was in an uproar. 2,000 mid-grade pills was enough to buy a top-grade xianbao. In order to suppress Su Fong, Ling Xingong actually auctioned a mid-grade flying sword. No matter how rich he was, he could not be so willful. Su Fong laughed and said, "Congratulations, young Master Ling. This mid-grade flying sword is yours." 2,000 mid-grade pills. Ling Xingong realized he had been tricked and immediately regretted. This time it was a slip of the tongue. It does not count. The old man on the auction stage said coldly, "No matter who you are, as long as you enter the auction house, you have to follow the auction house's rules." Going back on your words like this, are you playing with the Chamber of Commerce and the Pang clan? Although Ling Xingong's identity was not ordinary, the Chamber of Commerce did not care. Those who could open a Chamber of Commerce had the support of peerless experts. Why would they care about a young master from a cultivation god clan? They only cared about money. QL 11-inch 2,000 it is. This young master can still afford it. Ling Xingong was forced to grit his teeth and accept it. 2,000 mid-grade pills to buy a mid-grade xianbao. Not to mention the loss of pills. If this was spread out, he would definitely become a laughing stock. Su Fong laughed and said, "Young Master Ling is indeed rich and imposing. You deserve the title of Young Master, giving treasures. 2,000 mid-grade pills to buy a mid-grade xianbao. You are so generous to give money to the Chamber of Commerce. I, Su Fong, cannot help but admire you. Young Master giving treasures? This young Master Ling is really a young master giving treasures. A few days ago, he gave so many treasures to Su Fong. Today, he is giving treasures to the Chamber of Commerce again." Laughter rang out in the auction house. Even the old man on the auction stage could not help but smile. Ling Xingong was gritting his teeth in his private room. After a few more treasures were sold, the old man took out a jade talisman. This kind of jade talisman was usually used to store cultivation methods or divine abilities. It immediately attracted everyone's attention. Chapter 2631. The jade talisman in this seed's hand came from a secret realm in the depths of the primal chaos. It was an inheritance left behind by some peerless magnate after his death. It was obtained by an adventurer and eventually sold to the Chamber of Commerce. The jade talisman contains an escape technique called the Burning Light Escape Technique. When using this technique, the cultivator's body will turn into a fiery light. His speed will be as fast as lightning. It's as fast as a thought attack. When a Tao True Realm cultivator uses this escape technique, even the divine thoughts of a Tao True Realm cultivator will find it difficult to lock onto him. The Burning Light Escape Technique. To be able to turn a cultivator into a fiery light, his speed was naturally astonishing. It was indeed a powerful technique. As soon as the expert from the Chamber of Commerce finished speaking, the entire auction house went into an uproar. Even the upper echelons of the Pang clan could not sit still. In the Jiushuan God realm, powerful techniques and divine abilities were treasured by the major factions. Only the prodigal sons of the Jiushuan clan would put them up for auction. They did not expect the Chamber of Commerce to put up such an amazing escape technique. How could the cultivators from the Pang clan not be shocked? A majestic voice came from the private room. This escape technique must have some limitations. Otherwise, it would not appear in the Treasure Exchange Palace's auction. It was obviously a senior from the Pang clan. He was very knowledgeable and could immediately tell that there was a problem with the technique in the Jade Talisman. Otherwise, why would such a powerful technique appear in the Pang clan's auction house? Swoosh! Swoosh! Everyone's eyes fell on the old man from the Chamber of Commerce. As expected, the old man smiled bitterly and said, As expected of the Pang clan, there are indeed people who know their stuff. This burning light escape technique does have many drawbacks. Otherwise, the Chamber of Commerce would not put it up for auction. The old man continued, due to the long passage of time, much of the information in the Jade Talisman has been lost. It is equivalent to an incomplete technique. Naturally, it is not as powerful as you think. Also, the Chamber of Commerce cannot guarantee that the information in the Jade Talisman can be used to cultivate this technique. Everyone was like a deflated balloon. Who would be interested in an incomplete divine ability that might not even be able to be cultivated successfully? The old man continued, however, although this divine ability is incomplete, it is not impossible to repair it. If you buy it and study it carefully, it will be equivalent to obtaining a peerless escape divine ability. That being said, who would spend their energy on an incomplete escape technique? This blazing light escape technique will be auctioned with 100 mid-grade pills. Everyone, make your bids. The old man from the Chamber of Commerce announced the start of the auction. Even after he spoke for a long time, not a single person made a bid. Just when everyone thought that the Jade Talisman was going to go unsold, Su Fong suddenly said, "I bid 110 mid-grade medicinal pills." Everyone was stunned. Ling Xing Ong loudly shouted, 200 middle-grade pills. This young master, Bao, obviously wanted to fight to the death with Su Fong. Su Fong then said, domineeringly, 500 middle-grade medicinal pills. This young master offers 1,000. Ling Xing Ong immediately raised the price of the Jade Talisman to 1,000 middle-grade medicinal pills. However, he quickly realized that this was a trap set by Su Fong. Before he finished speaking, he promptly shut his mouth and quickly changed his words. This young master originally wanted to offer 1,000 middle-grade medicinal pills, but I am embarrassingly short of money. Forget it. Su Fong sneered and said, Ling Xingong, didn't you want to suppress me? Why are you admitting defeat this time? Ling Xingong laughed loudly. This young master is not an idiot. If I fell for your trick once, would I fall for it a second time? This time, this young master will let you go for wool and come home shorn. Use 500 middle-grade medicinal pills to buy a piece of trash. Let everyone see who is the real young master. Bao. Su Fong snorted coldly. His tone was gloomy. Ling Xingong laughed with satisfaction. Su Fong's voice continued. These 500 middle-grade medicinal pills were given to me by young Master Ling. I don't feel bad spending them. Ling Xing's sore spot was poked, and his laughter suddenly stopped. Inside the private room, Miss Peng comforted Su Fong. Young Master Su Fong, 500 middle-grade medicinal pills is not a small number. Next, I will give young Master superpower as compensation. Su Fong said, Thank you. After a while, the experts of the Treasure Exchange Palace delivered the Jade Talisman. Su Fong happily took out 500 middle-grade medicinal pills. Su Fong took out the Jade Talisman and absorbed it into the Jioshuan Taoist Palace. He sent his mana and consciousness into the Jade Talisman. After half an hour, Su Fong opened his eyes. His expression was unreadable. Miss Peng and Peng Zhong comforted Su Fong again. They did not know that Su Fong's 500 middle-grade medicinal pills were not wasted. Instead, he had picked up a great bargain. Although the superpower in the Jade Talisman was incomplete, Su Fong had the explanation of the heaven's evolution. He could completely deduce the incomplete parts from the information left in the Jade Talisman. However, this superpower was extremely difficult. Normal Daozhan cultivators would have a hard time mastering it. This was not a problem. Su Fong had the explanation of the heaven's evolution and the heaven's evolution astrolabe, which could help him cultivate the superpower. Although the burning light escape technique was difficult, it was not a problem for him. If such a powerful superpower was complete, not to mention 500 middle-grade medicinal pills, even 5,000 middle-grade medicinal pills would not be able to buy it. It would have been kept by the major factions. Why would they take it out for auction? A mere 500 middle-grade medicinal pills in exchange for a peerless escape technique was equivalent to picking up a great bargain. Su Fong looked depressed, but he was laughing in his heart. After the auction, Miss Pang brought Su Fong out of the auction house and came to a pavilion behind the Treasure Exchange Palace. It turned out that they were going to participate in a private trade between the special disciples and the upper echelons. Although this kind of private trade was not as big as an auction, there were often good items. Some special disciples had already arrived in the pavilion. When they saw Miss Pang and Su Fong enter, they all cupped their fists and bowed to them. QL11. As for Su Fong, some were curious, some were disdainful, and some were hostile. After waiting in the room for 2 hours, more and more Pang clan cultivators arrived. There were not many of them, mainly special disciples, but there were also Pang clan elders. To Su Fong's surprise, young Master Ling also came to the pavilion with Pang Yen. The one presiding over the trade was the white-haired elder. He briefly explained the rules, and then the small trade fair began. First, the elders took turns to go on stage. Some took out extremely rare medicinal pills, spiritual items, and gems, while others asked to buy them. Although the atmosphere in the pavilion was not as intense as an auction, the number of transactions was shocking. There were easily tens of thousands of low-grade medicinal pills. Some did not ask for medicinal pills, but asked for treasures that Su Fong had never heard of. This shocked Su Fong. An elder walked to the center of the room. He had a head of fiery red hair, and even his beard was fiery red. He wore a fiery robe and looked like a burning man. He exuded an imposing aura. He was also an elder of the Pang clan. From the reverence in the eyes of the special disciples, it could be seen that his status in the Pang clan was not low. He was a powerful magnate. I'm Pang Nu. I'm sure you all know that this is the treasure I'm offering to trade. The elder was obviously impatient. He immediately rolled out a xianguang. Sealed inside the xianguang was a gloomy black liquid. It was like mercury, constantly rolling and emitting an icy aura. It's a divine source of extreme yin. Su Fong's spirits were lifted. He stared fixedly at the gloomy black liquid. Pang Nu then said, "This is the heavenly Tao avatar of a Tao master that I killed. He was a cultivator of the water element. After I killed him, I asked someone to refine his universe and extract the essence of the extreme yin. This is one of the heavenly Tao avatars that I created. Because this divine source was refined, its quality is not very high. It's only a low-grade black level." Su Fong's heart was in turmoil. Those who could cultivate the universe in their bodies were all cultivation geniuses in the Jiuquan realm of the gods. When one reached the level of a Tao Lord, the universe inside the heavenly Wei Dharma body was almost complete. The Tao Lord expert killed by Pang Nu should be at the same level as Pan Song. After such a peerless expert was killed, the universe in his body was refined into a divine source and sold as a treasure. This seemingly insignificant celestial source was actually the heavenly Tao Dharma body of a Tao Lord expert and the countless lives in the universe that had been forcefully refined. Yet, Pang Nu said it so casually. He completely regarded the lives in the low-grade universe as ants. He did not care about them at all. The higher-ups and special disciples of the Pang clan only had eyes for the treasure. They did not see anything unusual. Obviously, they were used to it. If there comes a day when I am killed by someone, my heavenly Tao celestial body, as well as all the people, demons, and life in my body will be refined and sold as treasures. Su Fong shuddered at the thought. A strong desire to become stronger burned in his heart. He was about to buy a divine source for Shu Wanjin. Since he came across it, he would not miss it. Seeing that it was a water-type divine source, the Pang clan cultivators in the room were disappointed and lost interest. Pang Nu continued, "I'm going to be in seclusion for a long time. I need a lot of elixirs. As long as you can give me elixirs that I'm satisfied with, my divine source will belong to you." Seeing that no one else spoke, Su Fong said, "I'm willing to give you 200 middle-grade elixirs in exchange for your divine source." 200 middle-grade elixirs? Pang Nu's fiery red eyebrows twitched. Obviously, he was dissatisfied with the amount. At this moment, Ling Xingong suddenly said, 500 middle-grade elixirs. I want this divine source." Then, he looked at Su Fong with a provocative look. Pang Nu was delighted. He looked at Su Fong and said, Mr. Bao Bao is willing to give you 500 middle-grade elixirs. Why don't you increase the price? Mr. Bao Bao Bao. Ling Xingong's face darkened. He snorted at Su Fong. Poor guy from a low-grade universe. What do you have to compete with me? Su Fong thought for a while and raised a finger. Lord Peng knew. I'm willing to give you 100 middle-grade elixirs in exchange. You won't refuse. 100 middle-grade elixirs? Kid, are you trying to trick me? Chapter 26:32. The power of a Dao master was so shocking that Su Fong couldn't move at all. He felt his Jiuquan Dao palace shaking, and his soul was about to be incinerated by the terrifying will and divine sense. Ling Xingong gloated. Lowly ant, how dare you make fun of Lord Peng Nu? You're so arrogant. The white-haired elder who was in charge of the transaction shouted. Peng Nu, stop. Peng Nu snorted, and a powerful will attacked Su Fong's Dao heart and will, causing Su Fong to stagger. Lord Peng Nu is really angry. Why don't you take a look at what pill I have? If you miss it, you might regret it. Su Fong was infuriated. However, for the sake of the ultimate Yin God source, he had no choice but to swallow his anger. Then he took out a pill from his right palm and threw it to Peng Nu. Peng Nu caught the pill, sensed it and sneered, What kind of middle-grade pill can make me regret? Huh? Peng Nu's expression suddenly froze. Ling Xingong said, What kind of pill can a lowly ant from a low-level universe take out? Lord Peng Nu, don't be fooled by this slave. I'm willing to take it out. You're just a clown. Scram. Without waiting for him to finish his words, Peng Nu waved his sleeve, and an overflowing divine might swept him out of the pavilion. A miserable shriek came from outside. The higher-ups of the Peng clan and the special disciples in the room were all shocked. What kind of pill did Su Fong take out to make Peng Nu behave like this? Peng Nu stared at Su Fong. Boy, you have to keep your word. 100 pills like this, and the ultimate godly source is yours. Su Fong said indifferently, My name is Su Fong. Peng Nu was stunned, and then he laughed. Young Master Su Fong, I have a fiery temper. What happened just now was my fault. Everyone in the room was dumbfounded. Peng Nu was like his name. Even in front of the Peng clan's patriarch, he couldn't change his violent temper. At this moment, he unexpectedly acted out of character in front of Su Fong. It was really inconceivable. The upper echelons of the Peng clan used their sensing abilities to sense the medicinal pellets in Peng Nu's hand. However, Peng Nu acted as if he was guarding against a thief. He used his godly aura and soul consciousness to seal the medicinal pellets so that no one could sense them. This Dan was the medial level Dan that Xian Daozu had given to Su Fong. While it was only medial level, it contained extremely pure medicinal power and was also an ancient Dan. At Peng Nu's level of cultivation, even though middle-grade pills were somewhat useful to him, they weren't very useful. He would need a large number of pills to accumulate them. However, the ancient pill Su Fong took out was different. Its medicinal strength was far superior to ordinary mid-grade pills, and even a Dao Lord expert could only come across it by chance. So, how could Peng Nu not be tempted? If it was anyone else, even if it was another special disciple, Peng Nu would not hesitate to plunder. QL11, however, Su Fong couldn't touch it. While Peng Nu had a bad temper, he wasn't stupid. Su Fong's background was unfathomable, and now he had taken out such a shocking ancient pill. This made him conclude that Su Fong's background was not simple. How could he dare to plunder it? Therefore, even a Dao Lord expert had to submit to Su Fong. Su Fong took out a storage ring, and Peng Nu caught it in his hand. After sensing it, Peng Nu's old face bloomed with a smile. Then, he gave the sealed godly source scroll to Su Fong. Exchanging 100 ancient pills for a godly source that was very useful to Su Fong's cultivation, Su Fong was overjoyed. Peng Nu suddenly transmitted his thoughts to Su Fong. How many more of these pills do you have? I'll trade for as many as you can take out. Cultivation methods, magical powers, treasures, whatever you want. Su Fong responded decisively. These pills are bestowed by my master. I only have this much left. If you want them, you can trade with my master the next time you see him. Your master? Then forget it. Pang Nu's expression changed instantly. How could a cultivator who could take out such an ancient pill be an ordinary person? It would be good enough if he didn't get skinned when trading with such an expert. How could he take advantage of him? Su Fong was no longer interested in the following trades. About 6 hours later, the trade fair ended. Su Fong walked out of the pavilion, accompanied by Miss Pang. Ling Xing Ong appeared again. Looking at Su Fong, he couldn't help but gnash his teeth, but still walked towards Miss Pang with a thick face. Miss Pang showed a look of disgust, quickening her pace as she walked out of the Treasure Exchange Palace. Su Fong said with a smile, "Miss, this person who gave you treasures is a fool. How can you reject him? Is Baoduo stupid?" Looking at Ling Xingang's expression, he really was a fool. Miss Pang giggled. The special disciples all laughed, and the higher-ups of the Pang clan couldn't help but laugh. "Lowly slave, if I don't peel off your skin and pull out your tendons, I'm not human." Ling Xingong stared at Su Fong's back, almost breaking his teeth from clenching them. After Su Fong returned to the palace, he checked his gains. This could be said to be a great harvest. He even unexpectedly obtained the burning light escape technique, a peerless magical power. Su Fong couldn't stop smiling. It seems that in the Jiuquan realm of the gods, the purple cloud Dharma spirit can still bring me good luck. With so many treasures and magical powers, I can finally establish myself in the Jiuquan realm of the gods. He let the Xianyang Dharma body fuse with the Flaming Steps boots. The jade talisman containing the burning light escape technique was given to the heavenly Dharma body to use the heavenly divination solution to restore the incomplete parts. The ultimate divine source was given to Shu Wanjin. When she broke through, she would use the heavenly tribulation to fuse with the Dharma body. After the heavenly tribulation, Shu Wanjin should also leave Su Fong. Shi Xian's Daozu had already contacted his friend with a peerless magical power. He would come personally in a few days. Although Su Fong was reluctant, for the sake of Shu Wanjin's future, he had to do this. It's time to find a place to undergo the heavenly tribulation. After Su Fong handled all the treasures and resources, he left the palace alone after a month. He had the special disciple token, so he could move freely in the Pang clan. He walked out of the Pang clan's secret realm and arrived at the Fire Luo mystic world. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Not long after flying in the Fire Luo mystic world, an ethereal divine consciousness swept past him, causing the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to flash rapidly in the Jiuquan Dao Palace. Su Fong's heart skipped a beat. He immediately increased his speed and flew deeper into the Fire Luo mystic world. Who knew that the divine consciousness would sense him a few more times? The Pang clan won't attack me before they figure out my true identity. It shouldn't be a cultivator from the Pang clan. So who could it be? Su Fong's heart was full of doubts. He made a prompt decision and flew as fast as he could. He arrived at a city and directly entered it. Then, he used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to conceal the aura of destiny. Not long after, 3 cultivators followed Su Fong into the city. One of them was on par with Pang Nu from the Pang clan. He could be considered a powerful cultivator in the Fire Luo mystic world. As for the other 2 cultivators, they were both supreme Dao Lords. They were truly formidable experts as well. Su Fong sensed an origin aura similar to Ling Xingong's from these 3 cultivators. He immediately understood. Murderous intent surged in his heart. Ling Xingong, you and I have no enmity between us, but you keep on pestering me. Do you really think that I, Su Fong, can't kill you? Of course, now is not the time to find trouble with Ling Xingong. He had to figure out how to get rid of these 3 cultivators. Fortunately, Su Fong had the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. The 3 cultivators couldn't capture his aura of destiny. In addition, this city wasn't far from the Pang clan's secret realm. This city belonged to the Pang clan. Ling Xingong's subordinates didn't dare to act recklessly. They could only use their divine consciousness to search for Su Fong. 3 days later, a golden-robed youth swaggered out of the city. A black-robed elder stood in the air above the city. His divine consciousness swept over this person. He found that the golden-robed youth was transformed from a divine dragon. His strength was similar to a peak Tao, true upper realm cultivator. The black-robed elder no longer paid attention to him. The golden-robed youth flew over 1,000,000 miles in one breath until he reached the depths of a desert. Then, he opened his mouth and spat out a figure. It was Su Fong. The golden-robed youth was none other than the human form of the ancestral Gragon. Su Fong hid in the ancestral Gragon's body and used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to conceal his aura. Ling Xingang's subordinates naturally couldn't discover his existence. They were still searching for him in the city. This place is desolate and uninhabited. I'll choose this place to undergo the tribulation. Su Fong used his perfect physical body's sensing ability. At the same time, he used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to project his sensing ability in all directions. The spirit energy in this desert was dried up. There were no signs of life. Su Fong didn't lack the resources to undergo the tribulation, so he chose this place. Ancestral Gragon, protect me. Su Fong created a great formation in the depths of this desert. He prepared to undergo the tribulation and receive the recognition of the great Tao to become a true immortal. Master, this disciple is ready. Release my seal. Su Fong sent a thought to the Shi Xian Daozu. In the cave deep in the flowing flame waterfall, the Shi Xian Daozu used a supreme divine ability to seal the tribulation Qi in Su Fong's body and dispel the tribulation in order to prevent it from descending. Now that Su Fong was about to undergo the tribulation, he naturally had to release the seal. Su Fong, the Tao reality realm heavenly tribulation is very easy for you, but don't be careless. Especially the illusion tribulation, you have to guard your Tao heart at all times. The Shi Xian Daozu's ethereal voice sounded inside Su Fong's Jiushuan Tao Palace. Then, Su Fong felt his body suddenly relax. Then, the tribulation Qi in his body rose with all kinds of heaven-defying forces. In less than 10 breaths, chaotic Qi suddenly gushed out from the surrounding void and drowned the entire great formation. The chaotic void outside the sealed world boundary also seemed to be torn apart. Tribulation clouds hundreds of kilometers in area appeared. At this time, Su Fong's body began to burn with tribulation Qi. The surrounding chaotic Qi condensed into a solid cloud and terrifying thunder rumbled. The tribulation clouds in the sky also began to roar. The terrifying tribulation power passed through the sealed world boundary and turned into a terrifying vortex above Su Fong. Asterisk Hong Long Long. Asterisk Hu Hu Hu. Swish Swish Swish. Asterisk bolts of heavenly thunder swept toward Su Fong from the vortex and the surrounding chaotic clouds. Not only were there heavenly thunder, but also astonishing tribulation wind and tribulation fire. Chapter 26:33. A cultivator's cultivation was the process of constantly grasping the true meaning of the heavenly Tao. When accumulated to a certain extent, the supreme great Tao contained in the chaos would form a miraculous resonance with the cultivator, thus attracting the heavenly tribulation. Therefore, the heavenly tribulation was not just a tribulation to cultivators. It was also a test, an opportunity to obtain the recognition of the heavenly Tao and the corresponding ability. To a cultivator who had just ascended to the Daojian realm, the first heavenly tribulation was extremely shocking. Many cultivators could not withstand the heavenly tribulation, which meant that they could not become gods or even die. Moreover, the heavenly tribulation of a Daojian god was not only a baptism of the physical body, but also a huge test of the Dharma body and Tao heart. Su Fong's heavenly Tao Dharma body released divine power and formed a defensive barrier around him, constantly shattering the terrifying tribulation lightning, tribulation fire, and tribulation wind. However, not only did the heavenly tribulation attack Su Fong's physical body, but there was also an invisible great Tao aura that penetrated Su Fong's defense and swept through the Jiushuan Tao Palace, attacking Su Fong's Xianyang, heavenly Tao, and primordial spirit bodies. The Joshuan Dao Palace was filled with the terrifying, destructive aura of the heavenly tribulation, constantly attacking Su Fang's Joshuan Dao Palace and three bodies, as well as Su Fang's Dao Heart and Dao Heart. If an ordinary Daojian realm cultivator faced such a terrifying heavenly tribulation, it would be a life and death calamity. However, Su Fang's current strength had long surpassed the Daojian realm and could even kill a Dao Lord. Not only did he have a powerful physical body, but the Joshuan Dao Palace's barrier was also extremely powerful. The Daojian initial tribulation naturally could not do anything to him. Not only that, but Su Fang also continuously released his divine power and merged with the heavenly tribulation's power to cleanse his physical body and attack the world fragment. Under the dual impact of his physical body and Dao Palace, Su Fang was as steady as a rock and did not move in the face of the torrent's impact. Moreover, his physical body and three bodies were constantly being tempered by the impact of the heavenly tribulation's power, becoming stronger and stronger. Under the impact of the heavenly tribulation's power, the world fragment also accelerated the speed of merging with Su Fang. At the same time, Su Fang also took out the Thunderfire divine source and Dao aura of the heavenly tribulation to merge with his Dharma body. A cultivator's cultivation was to cultivate their own great Dao from the chaos, and the divine source was the substance that connected the chaos and the cultivator. Su Fang used the heavenly tribulation to fuse the Thunderfire divine source and the world fragment. This allowed him to have a subtle connection with the chaos. He could cultivate his own great Dao and obtain great power from the chaos that had nothing but everything. QL11, the heavenly tribulation struck again and again like a tidal wave. At the same time, the tribulation energy within Su Fang's body burned. Su Fang's entire body burned as tribulation lightning and tribulation wind surrounded him. It was an incomparably terrifying sight. The more shocking the impact, the greater Su Fang's harvest. Under the baptism of tribulation fire, tribulation lightning, and tribulation wind, his body was like sand being washed away by great waves. Even though his entire body was covered in injuries, it had similarly become even more perfect. It was the same for his Joshuan Dao Palace and Dharmakaya. Mysterious marks began to form on the boundary of the Joshuan Dao Palace, the chaotic region within, and the Dharmakaya. This was the brand that was recognized by the heavenly Dao. It was also the Dao mark that was formed by the fusion of the Dharmakaya, the profound meaning of the supreme great Dao and the elements. It was hard to find a suitable Shun source for Su Fang's primordial spirit. Fortunately, there were ancient Dan pills that could strengthen the primordial spirit among the medial gray Dan pills that Xian Daozu had given him. Right now, he could use the power of the heavenly tribulation to merge with the power of the Dan pills and temper his primordial spirit to become more tangible. Ancestral Gragon witnessed this scene from afar, and his heart trembled with fear. Divine beasts like him were most afraid of heavenly tribulation. Moreover, the heavenly tribulation that Su Fang was going through right now was much more terrifying than the great tribulation that he had gone through before. No one knew how much time had passed. In a trance, everything around Su Fang changed without him noticing. The surroundings were no longer filled with terrifying heavenly tribulations. Instead, it had turned into a realistic illusion. An illusion. From the small world of Pansong World to the myriad worlds, everything seemed to be repeating itself. All the pain and humiliation that Su Fang had experienced, the death of his grandfather, Xiao Mei Er's betrayal, the death of Goddess Luo, and all the hardships and humiliation that he had suffered, as well as the things that he had encountered on the celestial worthy mountain, appeared once again, causing him to be immersed in great pain and unable to extricate himself. How can such an illusion defeat me? Su Fang. However, Su Fang had a firm Dao heart. In the desperate situation, he never gave up. Amidst the pain, his Dao heart was constantly transforming and improving. After enduring the painful test, Su Fang easily passed the heavenly tribulation and successfully advanced to the Dao True Realm. Then, he returned to the Pang clan. In the battle with the Xian clan, He easily crushed his opponent and obtained a supreme fortune. Then, he killed Ling Xingong and became famous in the Luo mystic world. Even Miss Pang threw herself into his arms and had sex with him. Time flew. Su Fong crushed strong enemies along the way and rose from the Luo mystic world. Then, he went to the East Profound Heavenly Pavilion and killed Dongxian Zheng and Dongxian Rong, saving his grandfather's soul and helping him reincarnate smoothly. Then, Su Fong returned to the Pan Tsang universe and killed the descending and heavenly venerables. He swallowed the Pan Tsang universe and merged it into his heavenly law dharma body. After helping Goddess Luo revive, Su Fong came to the Western Mystic Divine Realm and became the disciple of the Western Mystic Daozu. His previous wishes had all been fulfilled. In the Western Mystic Divine Realm, Su Fong quickly rose to become a peerless overlord. He swept across the mystic worlds of Shixian and suppressed thousands of races, becoming the overlord of Shixian and receiving the worship of the realm lord and thousands of races. Then, Su Fong used a powerful divine ability to bestow divine blessings to his father, Xian Xan, and other relatives, friends, as well as the great monsters and cultivators who had followed him in the past, granting them great strength. Su Fong stood on the huge altar and looked down at the experts who were kneeling below him. Countless beauties surrounded him. He looked very majestic and domineering. However, deep in his heart, there was a faint voice that kept calling out to him, causing him to become confused. That's not right. Power and women are definitely not what I truly want. What I want is to obtain the true meaning of the great Tao and control my own destiny, not to enjoy power. When this thought appeared in his mind, his Tao heart, which was almost completely lost, gradually became firm. The beauties around him and the experts who were kneeling below the altar began to shatter and turn into nothingness. Everything around him returned to normal. Only then did Su Fong wake up. An illusion? It's an illusion tribulation. I actually fell into an illusion tribulation unknowingly. Moreover, it's not an ordinary illusion tribulation. It's an illusion within an illusion. It's really too terrifying. Everything that happened just now seemed to have happened for several epochs. In fact, it was less than half an hour. It was also in this short period of time that Su Fong's physical body, Dharma body, and Jiuquan Dao Palace were severely damaged. Fortunately, I'm not someone who is obsessed with power and women. Otherwise, I would be in trouble this time. Su Fong's heart trembled. Immediately, the heavenly Dharma body erupted with the power of the Yin-Yang world and shattered the heavenly tribulation. After another hour, the heavenly tribulation that enveloped Su Fong's surroundings and the sky began to gradually recede. Everything returned to normal. Huff, Su Fong let out a long breath and hurriedly swallowed several ancient pills. Chi, chi, chi. The power of his body's advancement swept through his physical body with explosive force. At the same time, his three Dharma bodies were also being attacked and purified by the power of the transformation of his primordial spirit, magic power, and energy. Then, his Jiuquan Dao Palace suddenly trembled. A strange resonance surged from the surrounding nothingness and the chaos outside the mystic world. As the Jiuquan Dao Palace trembled again and again, it became deeper and more vast. Imprints quickly condensed and stabilized on the Dao Palace's boundary, the chaos area, and the Dharma body. His physical body also became more vast and perfect. Suddenly, he felt a clear, buzzing sound coming from the heart of his physical body and Dharma body at the same time. It was like delicate porcelain being gently knocked. An indescribable feeling quickly enveloped his body and mind. What happened? He hurriedly sensed and found that his physical body and Dharma body's heart had undergone an astonishing change. His physical body's heart was no longer in the state of flesh and blood. Instead, it had transformed into a crystal-clear, jade-like state, emitting a mysterious seven-colored glow. His Dharma body originally did not have a heart. At this moment, it had an additional jade-like heart that was identical to his physical body. What is this? Su Fong was shocked and stunned. He forgot that he was still in the state of advancement. Xian Daozu's voice sounded with a hint of surprise. You actually condensed a colorful jade Dao heart in the true Dao realm. No wonder you could change the destiny in the Pansong universe and transcend the heaven and earth. Your Dao heart is actually so sturdy. Extraordinary, very extraordinary. Master, what is a colorful jade Dao heart? The Dao heart is originally nothingness. Only cultivators who experience great calamities but do not change their Dao heart can make their Dao heart materialize. Your colorful jade Dao heart is a type of Dao heart materializing from nothingness. What benefits can the colorful jade Dao heart bring me? The benefits are huge. Although the Dao heart cannot bring true strength to a cultivator, it is the foundation of a cultivator's cultivation. If the Dao heart is not sturdy, how can one cultivate? It is self-evident what it means to have the Dao heart materialize. Xian Daozu's words made Su Fong nod his head repeatedly. Having a colorful jade Dao heart means that you will not be eroded by external forces in the future on the path of cultivation. You will not be afraid of difficulties and obstacles. You will go higher and further than other cultivators. However, the colorful jade Dao heart is not the highest quality Dao heart. If you can cultivate an immortal Dao heart, it means that you can reach my level. Reach Daozu's level? Su Fong shook his head and smiled bitterly. The chaos has no beginning and no end. It has existed for countless years. How many peerless experts at Daozu's level were born? Daozu's goal was too high. It was unrealistic and biting off more than one could chew. Su Fong's current goal was the Dao Master Realm. The power of advancement continued to surge in his body for more than 10 days before it gradually subsided. This meant that Su Fong had successfully passed the tribulation and became a true Dao cultivator.